Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Creator Series and our latest round at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I am not George Morgan, but I am Daniel Gilligan. I'm going to be bringing this to you this evening with two very talented people. First of all, it's Badgerman. Badgerman, welcome back to the Combox, sir.
Yeah, very excited, Daniel. Glad that you're standing in for, I would assume, the rest of the season for George Morgan.
I would like to hope so. I mean,
yeah,
that would be nice.
Okay. I just don't know what kind of agreement you and Dirk have, so,
It's a sexy agreement. It's a really nice agreement I've got with Dirk.
Hello.
Yeah. We have an understanding with one another, you know what I mean?
I see.
Well, yes, excellent. So, we've got then one other member of our team here today, the Avengers, if you like, of this evening's stream. And yes, Badgerman, I'm going to just try and make you as uncomfortable as possible throughout this entire stream. But next up, we have then Gareth, who is going to be taking over from Dan's clipbook for Garrett's clipbook, really. And I'm bringing up all the wrong things. Where is it? There it is. Can you tell I've never used the Stream Deck before, Gareth?
Well, you get to learn on the fly. There's no better way, right? I'm really happy to be here, filling in your big shoes from last week, and I have a creator's dashboard that I'll be bringing in all the clips throughout the race. So hopefully we have a action-packed race. It's Baku, so it's going to be pretty balmy.
It certainly is. Now, the drivers have just started to make their way down into the, into qualifying then. And, of course, you're going to be providing us all those clips later on, Gareth. Now, Badger, before they start to go out on their outlaps and things like that, just talk us through. I mean, this season so far, of course, you've been doing this a bit longer than I have. Who's been the real standouts for those who are new to watching, and who should we be keeping an eye on based off the last few races?
Yeah, that is a very good question. Who are the standouts? I think there's quite a few, actually. I mean, we have a three-time winner this season, four-time winner of the Creator Series history, Tiamat Marduk, who will be running tonight again after missing last week for the Buckmore Park 24-hour kart race. We also have Meraki, who is currently second in the standings, only 18 points behind the Aussie who now lives in the UK. Meraki also on track today in his trusty Williams. We've got Alex Gillon, who once again fills in a reserve spot, this time for AlphaTauri. He won the first three races of the season back to back, and he is back, as I mentioned, in the AlphaTauri. And then we've got Bushy Ants, the winner from last week. He is also here in his trusty Mercedes. And finally, fifth in the standings is GB68 in his Aston Martin, as always, our reigning, defending champion of Creator Series Season 1, Safzo, also here tonight. He is only 6 points behind GB68. So the top 6 drivers in the championship only separated by 42 points.
Excellent, very good. And so then we go down to the track, and immediately you can see that we've got drivers on the intermediate tyres here today. And so let's get them out on circuit then. Well, they are out on circuit, I should say. And we'll wait and see then how things shape out in terms of their, their overall moves then. So we've got then the drivers here. I'm just trying to get our overlays working, but unfortunately I've not got them working just this moment in time. What we'll do, we'll just, throughout qualifying, we'll use the standard overlays, and then whilst we're off the screen, I'll get those fixed for us before we go into the race itself. But we've got then Safso currently out on those tyres, of course, those intermediates right now, just to set their initial lap time. Now, there's been an interesting development that I've been learning about from the drivers as they've been getting ready to, go racing here today, and that is to do with the amount of fuel you can use on your outlap, timed lap, and in-lap around here. Have you guys heard about this at all?
I haven't heard about this, but I know about this without the drivers mentioning it to me. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. So the limitation that the game gives you is, of course, 5 kilograms of fuel as the minimum. Well, Baku is a long circuit, and with long straights, which require a lot of fuel. So what generally tends to happen is you use over 2 kilograms of fuel per lap. Now you do the math. Outlap, flying lap, in lap, over 2 kilograms each time. That gets you up to 6 quite easily, and a little bit beyond that. So if you want to run the minimum 5, which obviously would give you the best lap time, and the difference in lap time per kilogram should be around 3 to 4 hundredths of a second. Not that much, but it might matter. You really have only one option, and that is saving a bit on the out lap, going lean and going high gears, then use everything you've got for the flying lap, and then either low fuel mode for the in lap, or just use whatever little you have left. I think that's the situation that we're going to encounter today. So you will notice a car on the in lap and a car on the out lap will look very different. On the in lap, they're going slowly. On the in lap, they're going super slowly.
Yes, absolutely. And Rasenchai sets our fastest lap so far. First it was Safso, of course, and then the Alpine driver. 144.9, and I think it's fair to say that given some drivers were talking about getting into the 38s earlier on, that's probably not going to be our pole position time. What do you reckon?
It's going to be tricky. I think it'll be close for sure. I do see the likes of Meraki, our resident qualifying merchant, who's had, I think, 3 or 4 pole positions so far this season. Bushy Ants, who got it last week. And I think those drivers are definitely capable of getting close to the 1 minute 30s. Certainly into... Whoa!
Well, I tell you what, all of a sudden...
just retired, and that happened basically in the final corner.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Let's just, I tell you what, let's quickly grab up the track map here so we can actually see whereabouts we are.
First one there. I think the car might despawn by then. I'm keeping an eye on the track map. No, the car's still there.
It's a bit further up the road, isn't it?
Faster, my guy, please. We need to see this.
And there he is. Oh, and almost joining him.
Yep.
Slamming into the wall there, just one alley.
Yep. The intermediate tyres do not like that corner. You only really notice this corner be an actual corner when you're not on the right tyre. Either intermediates, full wets, whether in dry or in wet condition, by the way. Even in wet condition on wets, you notice that is now a corner. On the softs, and even on mediums or hards in the race, you don't really notice it as a corner. But the other instance would be if you have damage. You're also really quickly going to learn, oh yeah, I have to maybe slow down a little bit for this one. And I think Bushy learned that the hard way on intermediates. And a lot of drivers are being caught out by that corner as well. So this is making the intermediate championship all the more interesting. And I want to apologize to Bushy Ants for the first commentator's curse of the broadcast.
Very good, very good. Well, I mean... we're trying to now get this up and running with the overlays. It's still giving me just a little bit of grief. So we'll go once again back to the game. But we do at least have Liam here with the lap counter, so we can at least go ahead and look at that. Infratic has set the fastest lap now, a 141.1, and that done on soft tyres. So they've decided to just go straight away. No intermediate tyre running for them to get used to the circuit. They've decided, no, I'm going straight for the soft tyre. What do we make of that?
I think he just doesn't want to play the games. The worry for me is for Infratic. He's been quite soundly beaten so far over the course of the season in the Red Bull team internal battle by Dirk Chocolate. That I think, obviously this is creator series, which means the drivers are creators and they want to get some content out of this. I think this is Infratic's way of saying, hey, look, I'm so quick that this is going to land on TikTok. But obviously the actual result is going to look significantly different.
It certainly will, it certainly will. Now, just to reintroduce, of course, the feature we debuted last week as Dan's Clipbook, but now this week is Gareth's Clipbook. Gareth, I am led to understand that you have some information for us with regards to Bushy Ants. Let me just bring you up, and then you can talk us all through it.
Indeed, yeah, Bushy Ants on an intermediate lap has put it into the wall at the sweepers. We saw that on chat, but coming through here, it just gets really wide on the second part. So on the curbing there, on the curbing, into wide. It's actually his back tyre that comes off in the collision. And you can see, bottom left-hand corner, Bushy Ants in pure disbelief at the situation. and disappointed to be out straight away. I'd also just put in chat that he is my tip for qualifying pole, and then you say Butchie answers crashed. Yeah, so I think that was a double curse there. So yeah, apologies to Butchie again.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, there we are then, folks. That has been the first instance of Garrett's clipbook here this evening. So back to the action we go. And, well, we've got an awful lot of cars in the pits. We do have Bevan Duttler out on circuit, though. So let's take a look at them.
Yeah, he's not quite in the Connor Sport racing car. He's in the Alpine instead. The move has not quite yet been completed, as our tackle man has retired as well. And that is in the pit lane. That is not a crash. Or is it? It might very well be a crash, potentially on pit entry. I'm not so sure, because there was a yellow flag for a brief period, and it was near the pit entry, more so than it was near the exit. So I wouldn't be surprised, because this pit entry can catch people out as well. And I think we might see that if we stay on board with Devin Butler here, also better known as Adam Sanderson, and he's supposed to enter the pits. Now, fuel is definitely too low. Battery is low. Why is he still using battery? I don't quite understand that. It's the in-lap. But you see here, you go left, then you go right again. It's a very nasty chicane, and you want to take it as quickly as you can because you don't want to lose any time. But to crash here in qualifying, especially in Q1, I'm a bit surprised if that is what happened. We're probably going to soon get a clip from Gareth here. But until we do, pure speculation here. I think Takuman just a little bit greedy there on the entry.
Possibly. Dear oh dear. So we've had another casualty in qualifying here today, and Fratic has also left the session just now. So that's something which I'm sure that they will be hoping to get themselves back in to set some good times, because currently, I mean, Fabio, P2 right now, as we start to see the first of those soft tyre runs being done, but Van Heffen right at the top there with a 140.3.
Yeah, he also skipped the intermediate championship and went straight for a set of softs. And 40.3 for Q1, I think, is going to be a good enough lap to advance into Q2. We'll see if he feels the need to go out again once more times start trickling in. And the last opportunity really for drivers to exit the pits for their last opportunity, if they so choose, would be at around 2 minutes. And but really, you want to be on the pit exit at around 2 minutes to give yourself a little bit of time to warm up the tires and sort everything out, and not be in too much of a rush. Maybe even 2:15 to really be safe. And okay, we do have actually some information from the chat from George11G, who says Takuman retired on his own because he wants to start at the back of the grid. And quite frankly, after the things that have happened to him over the last couple of races, I don't really blame him.
No, absolutely. I mean, that horrible crash in Abu Dhabi, for example, I can remember that like it was yesterday. That was a very, very brutal impact and pile-up of cars as Fabio rejoins the session. But yeah, that was then ultimately just one of those things where it got away from them a bit. It was a good result up until that point, and then, yeah, just all went to pot ever so slightly. So, we've got then Safso on our screen right now. And taking the first few sectors then. Let's see how they're able to manage their way around this Baku City circuit. Let's jump on board. And, well, you can see that this is clearly not a quick lap. There's very little ERS remaining.
That's an in-lap.
It is an in-lap. There we go. We'll see if we can...
140.5, and Van Heffen actually decides to retire. He is happy with his lap. Razinchai just went P1 with a 40.2. We have a double purple sector, 1 and 2 for Alex Gillon, and there goes the first 1 minute 39.6, and that is a statement from the 3-time winner of Creator Series Grand Prix.
Absolutely it is, and well, that's not a bad time at all, really, is it? And this is only Q1, and we've got 5 more minutes to go in this session, and then we've got 2 more after it, and already we're getting down into the 130s, having previously gotten ourselves, of course, into a great little run of form in well, in previous 2 rounds, and drivers just missing out by the smallest of margins. Of course, I'm sure we all remember last time out when poor old Dirk got cheered out of qualifying by his own teammate, and so So that was not a particularly nice thing, I'm sure. I'm sure the debrief in Red Bull was a bit frosty afterwards.
A bit, maybe, yeah.
Absolutely.
Quite drastically, probably. But yeah, one thing, if you have a look at the data channel, you're going to notice that Alex Gillon did get a purple sector 1 and 2, as I mentioned before, but he missed out on the purple sector 3 by just 8 milliseconds. The reason for that is actually quite a tricky one. I was on board for GB's lap when he did the 140.9, and he got a significant amount of slipstream from the Ferrari driver of Juswan Ali, who was on his way into the pits, and it just lined up perfectly that GB was able to take a lot of tow, and therefore that final sector does not end up being Alex Gillon's purple, but instead the purple for GB68. That's the only reason. Other than that, I think Alex Gillon had such a good final sector as well that he would have gotten that purple sector as well. And if you want to watch the data channel alongside the this broadcast right here, just click on my name and go to my channel as well. Open it in a second tab or something, and then you can see the data channel as well as the broadcast.
Absolutely, yes. Please do check into that data channel. There's an awful lot of things that Badger is putting up there to show you just how much data is coming out of the cars in the game here, and then all the various elements that can then give you some further insights to how the drivers are doing. We've got a retirement from the session, that's Rasen Chai, but it looks as though they're in the pits when they did that, so not an issue out on circuit, no crashes, anything like that. And now then, Benjamin Daly, the pressure is on. They're now on their timed lap. Let's go on board with the Australian McLaren driver. And so out of turn number 2 they go, and things are looking pretty comfortable on board that car right now. Let's see how they handle turn 3. A bit of a car killer this weekend in Formula 1, of course. And taking the corner then, Ben does it beautifully well. Little bit of a snap of oversteer on exit though. And now as they head through the right-hander of turn number 4 up towards 5, things looking relatively sedate from this point on. Badger, do you want to talk us through the rest of the lap?
Yeah, I mean, this chicane here, quite tricky. You want to set up for the exit more so than the entry. Now we're heading into the caster section. Right-hander, it's so easy to invalidate there. Kevin Marduk avoids that. Caster section, lots of bravery required. Got to make it smooth, but also fast out of the caster section again. We want to set up for the exit here because the next 2 left-handers are flat out without any kind of problem. And we see that right there. Kevin Marduk is flying. Tricky corner coming up here, left hand of turn 15, and he takes it nicely, avoids the apex curve that is quite high this year. Through 16, middle sector looking decently enough. It's not quite purple in either sector, but it's not far away either. Currently he is about, let me just quickly check, that is about 6/10 behind Alex Gillon, so that would make potentially for a P2, 3, or at the very worst P4 for Tim Marduk, and it ends up being exactly that P4, and he is guaranteed safe into Q2.
He certainly is. Great lap there, going just ahead of his teammate as well. Safso with the 140.5, Ben with the 140.4. So things looking pretty good so far. Now, as far as those who will be looking to improve, of course, that's everybody in the top 5. So Meraki, Liam, El Taco Man, well, they can't, and Bushiants can't either. But Riff Blondie can, if they go out and set a time. That's an improvement over no time at all.
Meraki might be out. He's in the caster section right now. He's only got 30 seconds left in the session.
Very slow, though.
He's not going to make it to the line, and he's not on a lap right now. He has invalidated this lap so far. I think this is an out lap as well that he has invalidated here. 20 seconds left. I think Meraki, our top pole sitter of the season so far, might be out again in Q1.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. That is not what they will have been expecting whatsoever headed into this one. And so now then, with the majority of the field retired, either voluntarily or perhaps not so voluntarily. They are now watching as the times come in. Bevan Duttler or Adam Sanderson goes across the line and finishes 13th, improves their time. Does not improve that.
Sorry to interrupt. It's between Riff Blondie and Hayden Gullis right now. Riff Blondie is about to come across the line. A debutant here in the Creator Series. Is she going to make it? No, P18. And that means we have our 5 eliminees already, and Hayden Gullis goes through with a 41.6. But yeah, we have Just Hun, Meraki, Rift Blondie, El Tacoman, and Bushy Ansa, and that is at least 2 surprises. I would say 3 surprises really here, if you count El Tacoman as well. But he chose to be out in Q1. He chose to start from the back. So 2 surprises there in Meraki, who mistimed his Q1, his final run in Q1, and Bushy Ansa crashed early on with no time.
So there we go, dear oh dear. But that does ultimately mean then that we do have our top 15, as you rightly say. So we've got Alex Giddon, Rousen Chai, Van Heffen, Ben Daly, Safso, Mr. Dale, Curbs, that guy Vince. Is a big moment of oversteer there for Hayden Gullis. Don't want to push too hard on your way back to the pits, otherwise you'll be out of Q2 before it even begins. And then we've got that guy Vince, GB68, Dirk Chocolate, Liam, Infratic, Adam Sanderson, Just One Ale, and then Hayden Gullis through into Q2. We lose Just Hun, Meraki, Rift Blondie, El Tacoman, and Bushy Ants from that session.
Okay, we have apparently more information that Meraki didn't miss his time to go out. Apparently his teammate, Curbs, just came in as Meraki wanted to go out, and that took 45 seconds away. So Williams' miscommunication right there, making sure that Meraki does not make it into Q2. That is incredible.
Excellent, good stuff. So, from that then, we can see a confirmation of that running order there. And that's all up on my screen, but not on the stream, because instead it is our faces instead, Badgerman. But as we head into Q2 then, of course, drivers are going to have a much more evolved circuit now. There's a lot more rubber going to be laid down. They're going to have gotten their eye in as well, and so now they're going to start to push those limits just a little bit more. Based on the fact that we only had 1 time in the 1 minute 30s, that from Alex Gillon, what do we reckon if we're going to get some more times in that sort of region this time around?
Oh, for sure. I think there's going to be 4 or 5 now in the second qualifying. The times are definitely going to ramp up. The 1 minute 41.1 that was enough for top 10 in Q1, that's not going to be enough to make it into Q3. I can guarantee that. You're going to have to be at the very least in the mid 140s, maybe even in the low 140s, to make sure that you book your ticket into Q3. Because these drivers, again, in Q1, especially if you have some pace, you tend to take it safe. You tend to make sure that, you know, it's okay to lose a 10th here or there. As long as you finish the lap, you don't invalidate, you don't get damaged. You know, that's your main concern in Q1. Now in Q2, to make it into Q3, you've got to risk a little bit more to make sure that you get in. So the times are going to ramp up. You also mentioned track evolution. Of course, that plays a role as well. That's gonna, I would estimate, ramp up the lap times by another 10th or 2. That's how significant that effect is. So a lot will happen, and you see the drivers are going out early. We already got 8 cars out on circuit, and it's only been a minute. In fact, we have 10 now, 11 now, 12 now, and it's only been a minute in Q2. So it's already busy out there.
It certainly is, and leading the queue right now is Curbs. You can see here in the Williams, and so they're likely to be the first one to set a lap time, unless, of course, they end up doing a Charles Leclerc into the castle section, or, well, I mean, maybe even turn 5 off the basis of today. But this then is looking like a good prep lap here from them. We'll talk through that lap as and when it comes along. But we've then got Safso, Timet Marduk, and I tell you what, it'd be quicker to say the guys who are not on a lap at the moment, really, wouldn't it? And that would be then Van Heffen and that guy Vince. Both drivers then currently still in the pits and waiting for their opportunity a little bit later on. Now you can see, of course, the flashing red lights on the back of the cars on their outlap. That's to indicate to any cars behind them that they're not currently deploying that electrical energy, that extra 160 horsepower that will push them along over the course of the lap. And of course, at this point here, that's where you see that light go out, because the drivers will know that all the way from the exit of that corner, all the way from turn 17. They'll now go bombing their way up towards the start-finish line and want to build up as much speed as they possibly can. Let's talk through this first lap then as the DRS opens up and we head to the start-finish line. So on board now with curbs as they head down towards turn number 1, making use of that entry curb before then cutting to the inside, just hitting the apex curb and then running all the way out to the exit there. Then on the run down to turn 2, keeping the car nice and straight, chucking the car in again, not abusing the curbs too much and making sure to get as close to the wall as they dare. Then on the run down the second DRS straight on this circuit, of course, up towards turn number 3, a corner which has caught so many drivers out in the real world this weekend. It's certainly not done that for curbs this time, as through the next few corners they go. And then just slight bit of over-rotation at the back end of the car, but they managed to gather it up reasonably well here before then heading down in towards turn 5. 6 comes very soon after, and you want to do exactly what they did. Try and get yourself as far over to the left on the exit of 5 as you can before then ploughing the car through 6 in as much a straight line as you possibly can. Turn 7, you can abuse the curbs a lot more than a real Formula 1 car can. And then the dreaded 8, 9, 10 up through the castle section. And now then, through we go into this sort of constantly tightening triple, quadruple left-hander that we've got here. As then up and out the exit we go, foot flat to the floor as the driver then just tries to get the car to go in as straight a line as they possibly can before then braking for this turn 16, very, very dangerous corner. And now then down towards what is essentially the last proper corner on the circuit before then a couple of the right and left sweepers. As we now go off board again, watching car number 98 making its way through the next few corners then. A little bit wide of the apex in one sweeper, but then through the right-hander they seem okay. And now up to the line then. What sort of a time are they going to put onto the board for everybody else to go chasing after? We will find out in just a few moments' time. 1:39 was the quickest of the previous session. What will curbs do? It's a 1:41.4. So I suspect, correct me if I'm wrong there, Badger, was that on a used set of tyres? As Alex Gillon behind them goes a 39.999.
That sounded very German from you right there. I would assume that was on a used set of tyres for most drivers, though, not just for Curbs, but for most drivers. They want to use a used set here in Q1 to then have a fresh set still available in Q2 and another fresh set available in Q3 and potentially their fourth set of fresh softs for the race if needed at the end of the race. So you only have 4 sets in total for qualifying and the race. 3 for Q1 and Q2, a 4th one that unlocks for Q3, and you got to use them wisely. So a used set usually only costs you, well, around here it should cost you around 3 to 4 tenths per lap, on your lap if you use a used set compared to your to a fresh one. So that's why we see Alex Gillon on a 39.9 when in Q1 he was on a 39.6 on presumably that same set of tyre.
There we go. Then we were briefly on board with Dirk Chocolate, but they decided to go to the pits before hitting the line. And that guy Vince does not do the same thing. They go across the line. 142.1, again, most likely on the used set of tyres there. As they cross the line, then go P9 there with 3 drivers still yet to set a time. One of which is Van Heffen in the Alfa Romeo, currently making their way down towards turn number 3. Badger, why don't you talk us through this lap of theirs?
Yeah, so far looking decent. Left a little bit of space there on the exit of 3 where you could have taken a bit more and used a bit more of the track. And the first sector time was 35.4, which is actually very, very good so far. Takes the chicane quite well there of 5 and 6. Doesn't hit the wall this time around, unlike Charles Leclerc earlier today. And through the castle section, a little bit of a moment there just before and that was not a good castle section. Missed the apex on entry and almost slid into the wall. Again, I just mentioned Charles Leclerc. He almost ended up in a similar situation, but just managed to keep the car out of the walls. Through the final corner of the second sector, there is a yellow flag up ahead. I think that is Tiamat Marduk, who is on a in-lap right now, so he needs to make sure he gets out of the way. And doesn't actually give Van Heffen any DRS, any slipstream. DRS obviously he gets regardless. And looking difficult on the energy as well. 13, 12%, 11, 10, 9. He turned it on a little bit too early maybe. Crossed the line though, and it is P1 for Van Heffen. with a 39.7 right there.
Absolutely. Very, very, very well done from them. Purple first sector that we saw on the track map a little bit earlier on in that lap, and so it was a good way to get started. Interestingly, Timet Marduk then, Ben Daly, has decided to keep on going. They've not decided to come in for that in-lap. Instead, they've decided to go for another lap. What do you make of that one, Badger? I mean, what's the use and utility in going out for another time on the set of tyres that are presumably well past their best at this point?
They certainly are, but he's got enough fuel in the car that it might actually work. Maybe he just doesn't. Oh no, I think he's. Yeah, his fuel has started. His fuel light has just started blinking after turn 6, so he's now on 1 lap of fuel left in the car, which is about 2.2 kilograms roughly, and I think that means he's going to try to finish this lap. Looking at his first sector. It was a 36.3. I think he's going to abort. Yeah, he just aborted the lap. He's still on the hot lap on the ERS, but other than that, he just aborted that lap, and he's noticed that this is not the one that he wants to do here. But one thing that this can also accomplish is a little bit of data collection for the race. Just see how much the soft tires wear out. When in proper race trim, see, how long do they last, how much time do they lose. A little bit of data collection there. Don't know how much Ben Daly actually collects that data properly. I would assume not so much, but just to get a feel for how the tires feel after a couple of laps, in case those softs are needed during the race, especially late in the race.
Absolutely, and we've got another time that's gone on the board then, this one for Fabio, whilst we were having a look at Ben there, and so it's a 141.4 for them so far, and they're currently on their in-lap then. You can see there with the flashing red light on the back, this is clearly not a push lap of any description, so again, probably on a used set of tyres, we would imagine, versus going for a brand new set, given that they were just a little bit later out of the garage than some others, but we've now seen some activity again, some drivers back out there on a timed lap or on an out lap indeed, and Hayden Gullis is one of those, so why don't we just have a look at the Mercedes driver then. And so, bit of a fight through the field the last couple of races really for Hayden. They've been able to pull off some great moves, some great safety car restart action we saw at Brazil, of course, last time, where they were able to get the jump on about 5 different cars at the safety car restart. It was really quite special, it must be said.
Yeah, certainly was, and Hayden Gullis is someone who's not always the fastest. In terms of pace, I would say he's midfield here in the Creator Series. But the one thing that I think sets Hayden apart from many other drivers, and where he is certainly near the top, is his racing IQ. He has this ability to just read the race incredibly well. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, if he decides to go that route, I think he would have great success, the route of an F1 race engineer on the game. If he were to sign up with SRC, for example, one of our sponsors, Sim Racing Center, or alternatively, if he tries tries it out, being a race engineer for maybe some league races, etc. Because he has worked together with Van Geffen, who has done race engineering himself plenty of times as well, and who is near the top of that racing IQ in the Creator Series as well. I think Gullis understands how a race goes, how qualifying goes, and he goes P5 there with a 40.686. Good lap. Whether that's enough remains to be seen, because we just had Mr. Dale cross the line in P4 now, and we've got more cars coming. GB68 and Curbs are both on their ways as well. Don't know if they're starting a lap. I think they might be, or if they just completed one. I think they started a lap there.
Yeah, I would say that based on the ERS percentage on GB68's dashboard, I should say, there's probably just starting a lap now. So now, of course, you're in this situation where you've got GB68 in front here, you've then got the Williams behind, and so if you're Curbs at this stage, surely this is a sort of a best of both worlds scenario here. You can now tuck in behind for the rest of this lap, not be affected too much by the Dirty X. You've got all that mechanical grip underneath you from the new tyres, and then by the time you get to that section at the end of the lap, you'll be able to get the mother of all toes, and then start to just fly by down the start-finish straight.
Yeah, it is a tricky game because what happens if GB68, for example, ends up in the wall, or what ends up happening if he decides to back out of his lap? All of a sudden, you don't have the toe anymore. You're just, you don't get it, and you don't get the toe at that part of the circuit where you need it the most, which is the final straight. So I'm not so sure. It is a gamble, it is a risk, but for Cabs, it might just play out fine as he stays close to GB68. So it might just work. In fact, in the first sector, he only lost 600 to a second. In the middle sector, he lost a 10. So he didn't lose that much time to GB. And we'll see both of them cross the line in a moment here. Decent lap time so far. Should end up being around P7, P8. Yep, P7 for GB, P10 for Curbs. Ultimately, and careful.
Ooh, big moment there. Code brown, I think, for both drivers, though perhaps more for Curbs rather than GB68. As into turn one, GB just left it off there, was like, right, that's it, lap done. And Curbs thought, no, I'm going to barrel down in towards turn one at full speed again. And so, just a moment there, just a little moment between the pair of them. But as it is then, we've got a few drivers then currently out there on their laps, including Dark Chocolate. Has taken turn number one then, and is going to now presumably try and get themselves round in a nice quick fashion. That being said, it doesn't look like the quickest of laps here, so we'll just stay on board for a little while and see whether or not they're going to really turn the wick up here. But they've got 1 minute and 27 seconds to go, so if they've abandoned it now, which they definitely seem to have done, that is them out of this session.
Dirk in Q3 in turn 3, not Q3. Dirk in turn 3, and that might ruin his run for Q3.
Exactly what we were saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that might end it right there. He may just have enough time to make it to the line. Sector 2 and Sector 3 take you about 1 minute and 4, and he's just crossing Sector 1, end of Sector 1, and he's only got 1 minute left, so this isn't going to work. So Dirk Chocolate out in P15, guaranteed. Meanwhile, in the top 9, we've got 8 drivers that have already retired from the session, including Temet Marduk in P9. That might be a bit early. We've got that guy Vince, Infratic, and Liam currently out on laps. Devin Butler is out. He is on an in-lap right now, or on a cooldown lap if you want, and he only improved to P12 on his previous attempt. But we've got Liam, we've got Infratic, who is just starting his lap, his attempt, and Liam is going to be the first one. Let's look at the second sector split for Liam. It's a 116.7. Quarter of a second improvement. That's not enough to put Curbs or Tiamat Marduk or anyone ahead in danger. But that final sector, maybe there was a mistake on his previous lap. Maybe this is going to work out. Seems unlikely, but possible. Let's see. Liam across the line. I don't see it happening. 40 point. Oh, he pushes down Tiamat Marduk, and Curbs is out. And Tiamat Marduk's on the bubble. And now we've got that guy Vince and Infratic. That is incredibly close right now. 1 millisecond between Liam and Tiamat Marduk. That guy Vince coming through the final sector now, and his split was a 116.309. That is good enough, I would say, potentially to challenge for P4, at the very least P7. I think Tiamat Marduk's out here.
Well, we'll find out in a moment or two's time. Cross the line comes that guy Vince, and it is Tiamat Marduk out of the session. 11th place for them as a best. And if Infratic happens to be able to pull out an absolute stonker of a lap as well to push them even further down into the top 10, that is going to be absolute pandemonium for them. And, well, I mean, they're having a co-op career series with Alex Gillon, of course. And, enormous crash! Huge incident for Infratic there, coming through the right sweeper to come back onto the start-finish straight. I tell you what, I'm going to quickly throw now to Gareth for Gareth's clip, but I would imagine, Gareth, you're probably going to end up having a third clip to show us in a little while. First of all, you got something to do with Devin Butler.
I do indeed. Let me just get me quickly that up, because I was just trying to clip that moment with Infratic, but we'll go back to that. So yeah, Devin Butler out the pits, just a bit absent-minded. We'll click through to it and go full screen, and out the pits, cutting the line, and then just not getting on the brakes in time. Wrong braking marker for out the pits, obviously there for Devin Butler. But we also have that moment with Curbs. which
Did it way
he
too
was only
cautious.
actually out of the session by about 100th of a second. Yeah, it cost him massively, really, because just as we come down towards turn 1, I do have the onboard GB as well. He does try and get out the way, but he should have run into the runoff zone, and that costs him 2, 3 temps, 4 temps, 5 temps on that lap, and he could have found time to go through to the top 10 shootout.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. Give us a shout when you've been able to get that incident in Fratic there. But, I mean, in terms of what we've just seen then, Badger, I mean, that is one of those corners where ultimately, if there's a crash there, you can sometimes end up seeing a strange phantom barrier, shall we say, that can then collect other cars as they come along. So if it had to happen at all, the end of the session, probably the best time for it to happen. But for Infratic, I mean, you're our data man. Was he looking set to go into Q3 if he'd not made that mistake?
No. He was, after 2 seconds, he was actually 7 milliseconds down on his previous best. So, if anything, he would have only barely improved. It wouldn't have been enough for a position. It certainly wouldn't have been enough for a couple of positions. I think he needed 4 positions and about at least 7/10 of a second to improve, and that was just not going to happen. So, in the end, it didn't really matter too much. It looked dramatic, but ultimately, it would have been P14 for Infratic either way. But let's talk about the gaps for a second, because Gareth already alluded to that. Curbs out of in Q2 by 8 milliseconds. But that's not even the most heartbreaking of stories. The most heartbreaking of stories is Tiamat Marduk out in Q2 and not into Q3 by 1 millisecond. 0.001. That's how close it ultimately was in Q2 between 10th Liam, 11th Tiamat Marduk, and 12th Curbs. Absolutely incredible. And it goes to show that sometimes every little bit matters. I was talking earlier about 1 kilogram of fuel basically changing about 3/100ths of a second, making you 3/100ths of a second faster, 1 kilogram less. That would have been enough. 1 kilogram less in the car. In this case, even 200 grams, for Tiamat Marduk, even 50 grams less in the car probably would have made him fast enough. That's how, it's incredible. I mean, and this is the creator series at the end of the day. This is not F1 esports where really every 10th, 100th and 1000th of a second matters. But even here, where we have, I would say, a significantly bigger skill gap than esports, which is just super close and tight, even here, thousandths of a second still matter.
They certainly do. They absolutely do. And so now then, as we focus ourselves back on what's going on here, we've then got Alex Gillon currently on their timed lap. So we might as well keep an eye on what is going on with one of the drivers, one of 2 or 3 drivers really, who's been looking like the absolute odds-on favourite here today. Down in towards turn number 5 they go, and they are able to then just carry huge amounts of speed through what is a very, very slow corner ordinarily. But with them at the wheel, it's looking absolutely easy. Through they go now up towards the castle section, and let's see how brave they're willing to be here. And, well, reasonably brave, though maybe just the smallest of lifts just to get the car back under control again as they bounced over the curbs at the entry of that section, and then up and over the rise, and now through this big, long back section of the circuit, the highest point on the circuit as well, of course, before then we dip down into this braking zone. A braking zone which can catch people out a huge amount, not just in the virtual world, but in the real world as well. As we go through the next few corners then, last proper corner on the circuit, although maybe Infratic would disagree with that, given what happened to them 2 or 3 corners later. And we go then through the left, now through the right, and this then that danger area before now, it's pretty much just floor it to the line and try not to stuff it in the wall. So DRS opens up then for Alex Gillon. Let's see whereabouts this Alpha Tauri goes, and will it be more successful for them than it was today in the sprint race? It certainly is, with a 1:39.3, the quickest time I think we've seen so far today.
Yeah, certainly. And if you think back now to Q1 and Q2 for Alex Gillon, I'm pretty sure he used 1 set of soft for both Q1 and Q2, so he has 3 sets of softs still available And I think this 39.3 was set on a new, unused set of soft tires here, because he has another one available for later on here in Q3. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, because that 39.3 on that old set that he used in Q1 and Q2, impossible. So I think that's a brand new set, and that means we might as well have just seen the pole time here from Alex Gillon.
We may well have done. We may well have done. Now then, looking elsewhere in the field, we've got Hayden Gullis currently on a time lap going through this last section of the circuit now then. And as we watch on board with this one, just want to remind everybody, please, please, please submit your clips of your favourite streamers as they go around. It will make Gareth's job an awful lot easier without having to go ahead and clip them themselves. If they're able to pull something out that you've been able to make, then, of course, let us know. Throw it in the stream clips section of Dirk's Discord server, and then that way we'll be able to catch moments like what happened with Infratic earlier on. We've still yet to get a clip of that one in. So, across the line goes Hayden Gullis, and it's P9 for the time being, 142.6, much slower than what they did in Q2, so I'm sure that there's more improvement to come from them. The only other driver not to set a time so far then is Liam, but they have now just started to exit the pits and go on to their outlap. So the Haas will be joining the rest of the field shortly. And now then, as we expect, you're then seeing cars all rushing their way back into the pits then. So we've got Alex Gillon, Safso in the pits as well, and then behind them a flurry of extra cars headed their way into the pits as well. Unlikely at this stage in Q3, with just 6 minutes left to go on the clock, that we're going to end up seeing any other drivers diving their way back into the pit lane at this stage, this late stage as well. To continue on the circuit and not dive into the pit lane, I should say, because that then, of course, is going to mean that they'll be able to get themselves back in, get the new set of tyres on, and crucially as well, drain the tanks. Because, of course, this whole time, drivers have been running with just a little bit more than full tanks at this stage in order to make sure they can go out, set the lap, and then, of course, after you start the lap, you're locked in your engine mode. So you can't go back down to lean to save fuel to get back to the pit lane, so you've got to carry that extra little bit of fuel. But for the final runs in Q3, unlike real Formula 1 where you need a fuel sample available to make sure that it is a legal lap, well, that is not the case here. This is definitely something where you can just take it absolutely down to naught, and even if you happen to run out just after you cross the line, well, that's absolutely fine. Session is over at that point, and so away you can go then. Hayden Gullis, I would imagine, is going to be coming into the pits this time, but I believe that we may have a new clip from Gareth and the clip book. And so, well, I mean, this is going to require very little in the way of introduction, and I'm going to let you do that very thing there, Gareth. Take it away and talk us through what you have found.
Yeah, well, it's that emphatic crash from the end of Q2, and it wasn't necessarily a skill issue, it was more of a lack of concentration, maybe what some would call that a skill issue, but we saw these fast sweepers claim bushy ants earlier, and they take another victim in Fabio. He hits the inside of the right before the long straights, and then he's thrown it into the tyre barrier, and that is day over, and a reach for the water bottle, a bit of frustration showing for Fabio, unfortunately.
Absolutely, yeah. A real unfortunate thing for them, really, when you think about it, because, of course, last week, Badger, they were the ones, of course, who missed out on a great time in qualifying by being just that little bit too far over when it came to that final run to the corner, run to the line, I should say, in Brazil. Just managed to sneak their way over that pit entry line and then invalidated their lap as a result. And so this time, it looks like a similar sort of thing, really.
Yeah, certainly does. A little bit of lack of focus. And that can easily cost you, not just around a track like Brazil, where the track limits are ever so close sometimes, but also and especially around a track like Baku, a straight circuit. As Jolyon Palmer taught us very, very well, you have to be alert on a straight circuit, and it seems like Infratic just wasn't in that moment. So very unfortunate. But again, ultimately, unlike the situation in Brazil, this one, as dramatic as it looked, didn't really matter in terms of position, in terms of lap time. He wouldn't have improved much anyway, as Liam is coming to the line. No, he aborts his lap. He wanted to go out of sync, and he didn't like his Sector 1 and Sector 2, I think, which would have been good enough for about P7. So, yeah, I think that's why he aborted that lap. He should have. He's the only Haas in Q3. So the Meraki issue, the Meraki curbs issue that we saw earlier in Q1, that shouldn't befall Liam this time. as there is no other Haas in the session to potentially hold him up.
Absolutely, yeah, completely right. And so, hopefully for their sake, within the next 2.5 minutes, they can get serviced, get fuel in the car, make all the changes that they need to do, and then go back out there for a lap time. Otherwise, they're going to be the Lando Norris of today's session, and not be able to get a time on the board, despite getting into Q3 with a reasonably quick car. So then, at the moment, cars out on circuit. The one leading us around at the moment is just one Ale. The Ferrari then at the head of the train. Now, this is both a blessing and a curse, really, in a sense, because they're not going to get the track at its absolute best when, of course, everybody else has run through. They're not going to get that benefit of the slipstream. What they will get, of course, is that benefit of the clean air. Just being able to have the car work in its absolute optimum conditions. Of course, Formula 1 teams make their cars in a wind tunnel with no other car in front of it. It's not like some suggestions that in order to make cars better at following one another in dirty air, they should put another car in the wind tunnel in front of the one that they're testing. Well, it's certainly an idea, but unless it's mandated in the rules, F1 teams will always do what it is to make their car the fastest over the course of a race distance. So that means optimizing for clean air driving, and then other things like, of course, lifting and coasting, saving the tyres, all these things. The moment it becomes quicker to drive flat out, if you had to say more durable tyres in Formula 1, then that would be where we would start to see that being the benefit, and that being the driving style. But as it is then, just one Ale is coming through the last few corners now to start their final timed lap of this session. We've got 1 minute and 10 seconds to go, so everybody out on circuit right now should make their way onto a new timed lap. And so let's first of all start with just one Ale in the Ferrari. So up to the line they come then, cross the beam, and down in towards turn 1, making all of the use they possibly can of that curb and a bit more, but then lock up on the front right corner and then wide of the apex. Now on the run down towards turn number 2, a little bit wide of that apex as well, and all the way up to the wall we go, before then getting back onto the power, driving all the way up towards turn number 3. And let's see how the first sector is when they get to the end of this first sector here. Another big lockup on that front right corner. I have a feeling that for just one Ale, this is not looking like the best lap in the world. We'll wait until they hit the split time here, and then Banter let us know what they're doing in terms of their personal best just now.
Yeah, I'm looking for all the timing right now, and Van Heffen seems to be the first one who is improving. Just one Ale, 35.8. He's already down a tenth and a half on his own best. Van Heffen is up 4.5 tenths in the first sector alone on his personal best, and Alex Gillon made it across the line with just 7 seconds left. So all 10 drivers out on their final runs right now. They're all attempting one, and let me check real quick. Yeah, Razin has already invalidated, so he's the first one who won't improve. But Van Heffen improving, that guy Vince improving, Hayden Gullis improving, GB68, I see a lot of green on the timing tower. Mr. Dale as well, just when Ali now going green in the middle sector by 7 tenths. So he is improving. The question will just be by how much. And I think it might not be more than 1 position over Sapso. Purple by Van Heffen in the middle sector. And that might be the one to look at right here. Final
Absolutely.
sector, and he's coming across the line. 38, 39 it is. Provisional pole position for the Alfa Romeo driver. Jorrit Jan Van Heffen. Currently in P1, but will that hold? Alex Gillon now going purple. Safso is actually green in Sector 1 as well, to the point where he is challenging Van Heffen's time. Middle sector, though, he loses 6 tenths, so I think he's out of the running here. GB68 is going to come across the line in just a moment here as well. We've got Mr. Dale right behind, who is also looking to improve on a similar time to GB, who goes 4th. Mr. Dale goes 6th, just misses out. Look at how close P4, 5, and 6 are. Here comes Safso, though. P4 just beats them, and that leaves one more, and that's Alex Gillon, whose middle sector was not good enough, but in the final sector, he pulls it out of the bag. 2 tenths gained in the final sector, and that is enough. With a 38.9, we have got the 1 minute 38.
So there we go then, that is your qualifying order. And so then, that is, for pole position, Alex Gillon on their return to the Creator Series. Then Van Heffen alongside them on the front row. Then Rasin Chai, Liam, Safso, GB68, that guy Vince, Mr. Dale, Hayden Gullis, and just one Ale. So, with all that being said then, what we're going to do now is we're going to play you a little interview that we have with one of our drivers. It's with El Taco Man before we head into the race.
My name is El Taco Man. I am a motorsport streamer and entertainer on Twitch. I've been a long-time Formula One fan since the late 90s. This is the original game I played on the Nintendo 64. This is how I came across Formula One, because back then we didn't have YouTube or none of that. And I'm very honored to be here racing in the F1 Creator Series along with some of the best and biggest names. I was selected to be the featured streamer going into the Baku weekend. Let's get into the questions, shall we? What's your plan going into Baku? Well, Baku is known to be a race of many challenges. I think the biggest number one would be survival. If anyone's kept up with my journey in the Creator Series, it's been quite the opposite of that. Where do you expect to qualify and finish in the race? My goal for qualifying is to not qualify so high. Going off my recent experiences, hanging out in the back of the grid is probably the safest for me to survive. If it all goes to plan and I stay off the walls, I hope to finish hopefully in the top 7. That is my goal. What do you want to achieve before the end of season 2? Finishing races has been a bit of a challenge for me. Several top 5s I would say have been robbed. At least achieving one top 5 would be absolutely awesome to do. That's it for me, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity for being the featured streamer this weekend, and I hope everyone enjoys the race.
So there we are then. That was a little bit of getting to know with these drivers. And now then, I understand that, yes, Gareth, you have got our, well, just the end of our pole lap there, if you want to talk us through it.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments on this lap where going through it, he recognises Joe's got him right here.
A little bit earlier there. Someone's
And
speeding, I told you.
he was already 2 tenths up, so he felt he had it in the bag. And as we go over and crossing the line, he's looking, he's watching, he's feeling, he's anticipating the lap coming in, and he's delighted.
Let's go!
First pole in the Creator Series, as he said, so congratulations to Alex. He's had a few wins, but he's going to be pretty unstoppable from the front of the field today, isn't he?
It may well be that. It may well be that indeed. So, back over to the race screen we go then. Predicted pit stop strategy there, provided by the game. How relevant that ends up being, we will wait and see, of course, because Baku is the race where, well, safety cars beget safety cars here, really. And so, I think that I saw earlier on, Dirk was doing a little lobby, a little bit of open lobbies with some other drivers and some fans and things like that. And I think they managed about 4 or 5 laps of clean racing in the end. Not just themselves, but the whole lobby. So, I mean, any predictions, guys? I mean, you know, Badger, we'll start with you. Any thoughts as to how many laps we'll get before a safety car is called?
Considering how many drivers we have on hard tires, I don't think it will be that many. The hard tires are notoriously difficult to get up to temperature. If the drivers do get them up to temperature, even then, they provide very little grip. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a safety car within the first 8 laps.
8 laps is a bold prediction there from Badger. Gareth, what would you say as your prediction?
Well, for race winner, I'll go Alex Gillon. He always wins when I'm on the stream, and I think like a lap and a half before VSC, certainly. I have no confidence in these guys.
Wow.
we have polar opposite guests here. So I'll tell you what, I'll split us down the middle and I'll say 4 laps then for when we get a safety car. But as it is, then Alex Gillon has taken the field round mucho quico. That's not Italian or Spanish or anything. I apologise to anybody who is from any of those countries. That was appalling. But we've then got, yes, as you rightly pointed out there, Badger, we've got a mixture of mostly hard tyres on the cars. Couple of drivers chancing the softs. Hopefully they're not quite as, well, made of candle wax, shall we say, as the softs that we saw in Formula 1 today. That for Hayden Gullis and Tiamat Marduk. As now we get the customary spins, of course, but this time from the onboard, as the game is providing them. And so then we have Liam, that guy Vince, Meraki, and El Taco Man, all on the medium tyres. Everybody else on the hards.
Yeah, and I just quickly highlighted the tire choices on the data channel. You can see all the tire choices, all the timing, everything you want, a track map, all at the same time over on the data channel. have it open on a second screen as the drivers are taking their spins. We have mostly hard tires, which I think is the sensible option. You want to get rid of the hards quite early. Then 4 drivers on mediums. That's Liam, that guy, Vince, Meraki, and El Taco Man. And 2 drivers on softs. Hayden Gullis and Chemet Marduk. I like that. It's a bit spicy.
Absolutely, yeah. We will wait and see how this start goes then, especially for those drivers opting for a more aggressive strategy, and see if they're able to get that bit of extra grip off of the line and the better launch that comes with it. But now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and it's go, go, go here in the Creator Series for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Great start from Alex Gillon up at the front. They're able to keep themselves ahead of Van Heffen. Liam in the background, though, is able to now make their way up the order with those medium tyres. A great start from them in the Haas to now be up into P3. Now battling with Rasin Chai. Don't come together, lads. It's not like before. Well, it looks like they may have come together, but Rasin Chai, the one worse off, pushed all the way off to the inside there, but only down to P4 for the meantime. But with Safso closing in behind, then the McLaren is going to have a think about it up the inside here. No, they break very early and back out of that one, but they might invite a little bit of an attack now from GB68 behind. Chemet Marduk and Hayden Gullis have both moved forward as well with those soft tyres, and now then as they try and jostle with position with one another, then all the drivers still very, very close indeed. Bush Jans has rejoined the session now after being down in 16th position here, and so far as we head through the lap, we're just going into Sector 2 now. We see that there are no retirements or crashes or anything. Chemet Marduk has made their way around the outside of Hayden Gullis in turn number 6 as they head now into turn 7. Great bit of driving from all these drivers on the field right now, and then there's now a crash in Sector 2. There's now yellow flags out, but the yellow flags were there briefly and have now disappeared almost as quickly as they arrived. So we now go blasting back down this back section of the circuit. Then Liam is very close to the back of Van Heffen at the moment with those medium tyres. The extra grip and purchase that they offer means that this is going to be likely to be an opportunity for them, even without DRS, to maybe have a move down the start-finish straight. Let's wait and see here. Purple second sector for them according to the track map. And now then as we jump on board with the Haas driver, let's see whether or not they're able to get anything. And we didn't even make one lap! That's the virtual safety car is out. And I suppose then the question now, guys, is do we count that as a safety car in our prediction?
No, not yet. Unless it gets upgraded to a full safety car, that's not a safety car. It's only a virtual one. That doesn't count as the same thing. Meanwhile, I can report that Just Hun in P18 has suffered front wing damage at some point, and quite significant front wing damage as well. So I think this will be a welcome VSC for her to get into the pits, get a new front wing. We've got Just One Ali as well. No front wing whatsoever on that car. And Mr. Dale's in the pits with a tiny bit of front wing damage on the right side. It was 15% damage. So just the end plate gone really, but gets a new nose. And out on track he goes again on the medium tyres, and Just One Ali goes on to hards with Just Hun going for mediums, and Rift Blondie also in for a new nose and a new front wing, and she's going for medium tyres here as well. So the 3 drivers that started on hards, apparently Just One Ali went from hards to hards, which is interesting. He was the one car, as we are back under green now, he is the one car probably in this whole field who chose the harder tyre allocation. That's not usually something you see.
Not usually something you see, and not something you usually tend to see at Baku either. It is a circuit where, of course, as we've been saying, it is a circuit that creates safety cars. And oh dear, Just Hun is now off at the back of the field then, in the runoff area, and driving a Haas. Well, it's less Kevin Magnussen, more Nikita Mazepin, really, in terms of performance here at the second lap. But there we go then, away they go once more. And now Alex Gillon has a 1-second lead over Van Heffen, who in turn has only a half-second lead. Less than that now over Liam at the moment. So let's wait and see then. Liam's charge was interrupted, of course, by that virtual safety car. Do they now get the opportunity to go bolting on after them? On this particular lap, they are closing in. 3 tenths is now the gap between the pair of them. The Alfa Romeo moves to the inside to defend from the Haas as they go down towards turn number 1 then. It's side by side, but no, it's no longer side by side as ahead even before the braking zone. Liam moves up into P1 because Alex Gillon makes a mistake. Rasin Chai, Safso both move by. So too does, not Chemet Marduk. He's now tucked in behind. The old sparring partners are there then, and Chemet Marduk now trying to just get rid of GB68, Hayden Gullis, and that guy Vince all behind them. But through all of that then, Liam has now also lost the lead then going into turn number 3. They've tried to get the cut back under Van Heffen there, but it's not really worked for them, so the medium shot driver needs to make their way back up the field now. But massive mistake there from Alex Gillon.
Yeah, certainly, and I think that's down to the hard tyres right there. A really tricky turn one after you go straight for so long. There's no temperature left in the tyres anymore at that point, and then you're trying to take turn one, and I think that's what we saw there. Maybe added with a little bit of brake magic as well for Alex Gillon as he just overshoots turn one and loses 4 places, but I think he stayed damage-free in all of this, so he is actually being able to continue and drive on. But yeah, the track position loss, of course, very, very unfortunate for him. And yeah, maybe the it's not a shark fin, but the fish fin on top, the goldfish fin on top of his helmet had a little bit to play into that as well.
Yeah, maybe just creates a bit too much yaw in the aerodynamics, possibly. Something like that. Who knows? But there we are then. So, Liam, back where they were last lap, except this time, they're going to have some DRS as well. Team Monarch, absolutely, as you say, has been able to get the move done on Alex Gillon, but up at the front it is Liam back into the lead now with the aid of DRS, and so now in towards turn number 1 they go. Just Hun has retired from the session. They've done so, I think, in the pit lane, so yes. It looks as though that is going to be all safe. We shouldn't have a safety car as a result of that. One bit of a shame for them after one incident there to then be retiring at the end of lap number 3, as now then down towards turn number 3 we go, and once again it is Van Heaven up the inside of Liam into turn number 3. Liam tries to get that more advantageous exit line there from the corner, but it doesn't really work for them. Doesn't give them that opportunity to pull back alongside and try and make the move work. This is not what they want. They want to be trying to make as many positions up as they can, or rather make one position up and then start to bolt away at the head of the field. They want to make the use of those medium tyres whilst they're still good. If they end up languishing a battle with hard tyre runners, then all that's going to end up happening is they'll end up falling back down the order here. But I tell you what, it's not just them feeling the pressure right now, but also look at the McLaren's currently battling at the moment. Safso versus Ben Daly, and Ben practically pushing his teammate through the corners with 2 grades softer tyres than what you see on Safso at the moment. I think this is just a ticking time bomb as to when the McLaren driver gets behind their gets ahead of their teammates rather than if.
Yeah, certainly, and I think these two have a good understanding of each other. They do talk to each other in the voice chat. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some, I don't want to say commands being yelled out, but there's going to be some gentle but firm requests being made of, hey, can you please let me through? I am much, much quicker. And I'm pretty sure Safsa is going to oblige rather shortly. If not on this straight, then surely into turn 3. But Liam is doing the right thing now. He's staying behind Van Heffen here down the main straight, or is he? Oh, don't go for the bait. Yeah, he stays behind as we have another yellow flag in Sector 2. As just when Ali is out, and that will cause the first safety car of the race, and actually at the start of lap 5. So I would say, Daniel, with your prediction of lap 4, you were pretty much spot on.
Ah, there we go. I mean, I would accept a little bit of deviation there, given that we had a lap under the virtual safety car, or 2 laps under the virtual safety car. I forget how many it was. But yes, just Bonale out of the session then. So, given that we're now under full safety car conditions, it's likely to be out for 2, 3, maybe even 4 laps. I think it's a perfect time to check in with Gareth's clip book. So, Gareth, I understand that you've got a few different incidents for us to look at. Take it away, please.
Yeah, I was just trying to get a clip of just one Ali, but he immediately went off stream, so he is fuming with whatever incident he has. I'll try and get a clip for that later on, but let's look at the clip we have here between Bushy Ants and Meraki, his AI in fact, and then a hit from Just Hun from behind, and that's where the wing damage for Just Hun came from. And it was AI for Bushy Ants he was battling, and he was getting pretty irate in the voice channel about his AI pushing him so hard. There's also a moment between Shai and Rasin Shai and Liam off the start. If we jump over to that from the Savso view, from the start, of course. Oh my God, and Savso had a little bit of a tag from GB68 behind, but we see Rasin Shai and Liam get too wide into turn 2, and Rasin Shai had to take aversive measures in the end. Yeah, I'll try and get a clip of what happened to just one Ali, but he pretty quickly shut down his stream.
Well, there we go then. Thanks very much for that, Gareth. Again, if you have clips from your favourite streamers and you want to have them shown on the channel here, then please do submit them to the stream clips section of the Discord server. But as it is then, Badgerman, we have got 2 drivers out already. One by their own retirement, one by a collision. And so, ultimately, you know, that's 2 down, however many to go. There are various leagues that have very clean drivers, for example, usually 17, 18 drivers finishing a race, but then I've seen them go to Baku and only 6 cars finish. So, let's maybe throw a different prediction into the order here, and, how many cars finish this race, do we think?
That's so hard to predict. I think we'll be lucky if we get more than 10. I think it's gonna be... Yeah, it's gonna be around 10, surely. Maybe 12. Yeah, someone in the chat saying 12. That was my first thought as well, but then I thought, well, who would realistically finish? And as quick as all of these drivers are, one of the main differences between creators and esports drivers is not just the outright pace. We see Alex Gillon. We see, sorry. My goodness.
That's all right. Bless you.
Forgot to use the mute button there. Apologies. We see drivers like Alex Gillon and Tiamat Marduk and Meraki and GB68 and all those drivers and Van Heffen, and we see them be quick. But one thing that sets apart esports drivers from creators is consistency, and that's just something that at back it will bite you in the back quite drastically. You're going to feel that for days usually, and it will cost you the not just points but probably the race finish as a whole. But just to say something on the retirement of Just Hun. I was checking out her car damage before she retired, and she had quite significant rear wing damage. And unlike front wing damage, rear wing damage cannot be fixed. So that's something that she would have driven around with for the whole rest of the race. And as such, I think that was a quite sensible decision from her to retire. Yes, it was on her own accord, but not really. With that kind of damage, you don't really want to keep driving for 50 more laps.
Absolutely. There's been a swap of positions and a swap back of positions between Ben Daly and Alex Gillon. I think that those two may be having a little bit of a moment with one another. But one driver I'm just going to highlight for us here on the stream is Hayden Gullis, or it was Hayden Gullis. Their cameras now disappeared, but we had them there earlier on. Apologies that we don't have them anymore. But with Hayden, then they have they've got themselves a new set of tyres. They're one of only really 2 drivers in the whole field to do so. One being in Fratic during this safety car period as well. And then Riff Blondie has decided to go for another set at the end of the first lap, presumably in all the melee that happened there. We ended up seeing them end up having their problems and so on, and now that's why they are 54 seconds off the back of the field, of course. Now, given that the safety car is still out there and it's still going reasonably slowly, especially through the corners, then that's going to be where, of course, they will be able to start making their way a bit further on here and trying to catch the back of this queue. But as it is right now, I mean, again, we've got Alex and Ben trading positions with one another under the safety car.
Not just that, I'm sorry to interrupt there, not just that, Tiamat Marduk just keeps pulling alongside Alex Gillon. He wants the position back. I think what happened was, Tiamat Marduk was going a bit too slow under safety car, and the game allowed Alex Gillon through. Gillon took the position, and now Tiamat Marduk wants it back. And that's why they've been going back and forth here. And I think the correct order has now been re-established. It looks like it. Tiamat Marduk does stay ahead and doesn't let Alex Gillon back through. So I think the correct order from before that situation has been re-established. But yeah, that was quite close there in turn 6 as well. Alex Gillon not too happy with Tiamat Marduk pulling alongside him, so he took a very wide line and almost put Tiamat Marduk into the wall there. Very, very up close and personal, these two. They know each other very well, of course. But my goodness, that was a moment and a half.
It certainly was. Now, unless we're likely to have the safety car in with a very, very late call, it's looking like we will have at least one more lap. And so I think time to then check back in with Gareth and the clip book. Gareth, I understand you now have our Just One Alley incident.
Indeed I do, and he had a bit of a moment straight away out the castle section, so really struggling on those hard tyres. I don't know if it was overheating or underheating, but he certainly wasn't happy, and now through these fast sweeping left-handers and into turn 15, misses his braking zone, into Pirelli, advertising hoarding, he goes wheel off and end the stream for Just Ali. He was not happy with that one, and that's the end of his involvement today. So a difficult one for the Ferrari driver.
Absolutely, yeah. It is. There are so many corners around this circuit. There's turn 2, turn 3, and then, of course, turns... there's the whole cast section itself, and then, of course, there's that corner there too. That turn 16, just before you get to the proper final corner on the circuit, turn 17, and then you've got all those sweepers, as we say, which then form out the final of the 20 corners. And it's just a really, really difficult thing to try and get that braking zone right. It is downhill after having gone uphill all the way through that section, and then of course it sort of all tightens up around to the right hand side before you then have to turn into the left. So it's one of those real problem corners where drivers more often than not can end up finding themselves in the wall if they're not. And again, it relates back to what you were saying before, Badger, being consistent. That's the real thing that gets you if you are maybe someone who's not quite at esports level in this game.
Yeah, certainly. Meanwhile, Rift Blondie, who is the only car trailing the field right now, is back into the pits, serving a 5-second penalty, and I think she was also repairing some damage that she may have suffered earlier, although I'm waiting to see what her pit time was. And
it's a very long stationary time.
Yeah, no, it was 8.3, so it was only the 5-second penalty served, and then a normal pit stop, no front wing change as well. Otherwise, that would have been closer to 13 to 14. She also crossed the pit exit line, but the first time you do it, you only get a warning, so she'll be all right.
Only a warning? For crossing the pit exit line?
First time in the game, I'm not talking about real life. First time in the game, you only get a warning for that. That's why you tend to see it in esports and in challenges currently quite a lot as well. If you tune into the F1 esports challenges on, I think, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week, whereas Rift Blondie almost hits the wall in turn 5. Yeah, she's struggling with this circuit. I think it's very clearly noticeable here. You're going to notice that a lot of drivers, because you only make one pit stop in these challenges races, they all disregard the pit lane exit line.
They do indeed. They do indeed. And of course, there is a huge benefit to disregarding it, because it means you can get back over to the racing line very, very quickly and not be pinched into the apex of turn number 2, for example, if you're trying to defend a position, if another driver has gone for the undercut on you, for example. So there's definitely benefit to doing it if you can get away with it. But then again, you know, we are under full safety car. There's no real reason that you need to be taking away that one joker card that you get for it, and then, of course, after that, getting penalties. So interesting choice by them to do that, shall we say. Mr. Dale is also a bit far off the back of the field at the moment, 15 seconds off the back of Infratic, I should say. And talk us through that one. I mean, they've clearly gone for a new set of tyres, and, I mean, 100% distance around Baku. What are we thinking in terms of the longevity of the hard tyre around here?
It's roughly 40 laps, so it can go quite long, not quite to the end of the race from here. If you've pitted onto them like Mr. Dale has. He has used them for 1 lap prior, on lap 1, when he pitted to repair damage. But, they won't quite make it to the end of the race, but they will last him a very long time, and so he can choose which safety car period he's going to use, which next, almost guaranteed, safety car period he's going to choose to go either to mediums or go to softs. So there's a, the flexibility that he has now from this hard tire is quite significant, and we do get the message safety car in this lap now. For those of you who were wondering, is the safety car bugged? I saw that in the chat. No, it wasn't. It was waiting for Rift Blondie to catch up, but Bernd Mailander has had enough. She still hasn't caught up to the safety car, and therefore Bernd Mailander now pulling off into the pit lane in just a moment here. And it is JJ Van Geffen who is now in charge of the field, becomes the de facto safety car, and will lead the field. And I can tell you right now, his rear tyres are not up to temperature, so turn 1 is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Turn 1 always fun at Baku, but even more so when the drivers are injecting that little bit of a temperature spice. And it looks like he's gone. So Van Geffen sets off to restart this race then. They have caught Liam napping ever so slightly, but not by a huge amount. Rasenchai closer to the back of them, so too is Saf, so to them. And Timet Marduk, of course, looking threatening in the mirrors too of their teammate. Through turn 1 they go, and there's a little bit of action further on in the background there. That guy Vince and then GB68 having a good tussle with one another before then GB is getting swallowed up by Dirk Chocolate now. So round the outside goes the Red Bull driver. And now then on the run up towards turn number 3, looks like the Aston Martin has got the legs in a straight line over the Red Bull. And now then as they go up there, it looks like Curbs is now going to fancy their chances. Up the inside they go in turn number 3, and oh, it doesn't quite work for them. But they do not lose their position to Dirk. That is the main thing. They have been able to take advantage there and take a position away from Dirk during this period of safety car restart. And we've got yellow flags in sector 1. That's Riff Blondie off in the runoff area once again. So unfortunate for them. But they will get moving once more and do their absolute level best, I would imagine, to try and catch up to the back of this field. Meanwhile, we've got all this battling going on. Infratic and Hayden Gullis are having a good old scrap as well. Look at this, side by side on the run up towards the castle section now. They're not going to keep their foot in it, surely. No, Infratic goes back in behind now, so Fabio electing to be the intelligent route, shall we say, when it comes to fighting in the castle section. As now they go bursting back down the back straight, and there we go. We've got Tiamat Marduk now up the inside. Their teammate Sasso lifting off there on the run down towards turn 16 and now towards 17 as well. And that then means that Ben is now in prime position to try and get themselves onto the podium with those soft tyres while they're still at their best, or at least not at their worst. And so as they come through the sweepers now then, let's see if the McLaren driver is able to now just get themselves into a position where they can go chasing on after those cars in front. No DRS yet, of course, because we're not on the third lap after the safety car was recalled. And now then, as we go down towards the first corner, we can see there's two battles going on our screens. We've got Alex Gillon moving up in front, and now then Ben Daly makes the move up the inside. Timet Marduk up into P3 in this race, and their teammate is still fighting with Alex Gillon. Alex Gillon now moves up into the lead there. Oh dear, dear.
It's a completely unjustified 5-second penalty that he will have to serve. That won't be removed, but he was around and in front of GB68, who also lost plenty of time there. And now Devin Butler is getting swarmed by 4 cars at the same time. GB losing out. Al Tacoman!
Oh dear!
Exit road. Woo.
Little spin turn to get themselves going once again, but yes, absolutely. We watch them with the Alpine driver, Devin Butler or Bevan Dutler or Adam Sanderson or whatever name you want to give him. And now then, as they make the run in turn number 15, not turn number 15, place number 15 here, they are now still sticking to the back of the Aston Martins and the Red Bull of Infratic as well. Infratic, though, has made the move, and in an area of the circuit, you would never expect a move to happen there. Great bit of driving from them as they make their way up into the castle section.
Yeah, only reason that was possible is because GB68 has significant front wing damage to the right side from the driver's perspective, the right side of the front wing. 38%, it's sort of light yellow, and that loses you a lot of downforce. We're talking to the tune of about 2.5, 3 seconds a lap.
And they let their teammate through as well. Mr. Dale has been allowed through.
GB68 is going to come into the pit lane. I just hope.
Oh, and Ben Daly out of the session! Ben Daly out of the session. Let's take a look now. It's on the inside there. They've come out of the section of circuit where we saw Infratic lose it in qualifying and have slammed into the barriers on the inside. Absolutely incredible scenes, and now a flurry of action in the pit lane as we have a virtual, I believe, safety car. Full safety car. Sorry, the dot was being obscured on the track map by the by those coming by. But yes.
That means the leader has made it past the pit lane. Now everyone gets one more lap to decide whether they want to pit or not, because the leader is already past the safety car. So he's driving around. Everyone's driving around the circuit now to the Delta. And the Delta only disappears when the leader has caught up to the safety car and is firmly behind the safety car. That's not the case right now. So everyone gets to decide for one more lap whether they want to come in or whether they want to stay out. So very interesting scenario here. I think Van Heffen deliberately sped up the moment the safety car came out to make sure that he jumps the safety car, because he was already past pit lane entry, to make sure that he gets that chance, that second bite of the cherry, and making sure that he can choose now as he can and as everyone else can as well. Interesting to see. Oh, drive-through penalty for that guy Vince. And that is what I would call a rookie mistake. Safety car exceeding allowed pace is what it says. If you look on the data channel, that's the internal message that comes from the game through telemetry. So yeah, he was disregarding the delta that everyone has to follow under the safety car, and as such, that Vince now with a drive-through penalty that he cannot serve under safety car. He has to wait until the end of the safety car, then he's got 3 laps. My advice for him would be serve it as soon as the safety car comes in. Just literally follow the safety car into the pits.
So there we go then. That has been them coming a cropper through bad luck more than anything else. They've decided to stay out, in fact. They've not gone into the pits, has Van Heffen. And now then, it's going to be an interesting thing where Rasenchai also staying out, Alex Gillon staying out, and Curbs may be looking to stay out. Yes, they've stayed out as well. So not many of the hard tyre runners electing to come in this time. Though I think that one driver in amongst all of them has been able to get themselves to a really good position for the end of this race, actually, and that is Liam in the Haas. On a set of fresh hard tyres. As you said earlier on, they can last around about 40 laps or so around this circuit, and now we're on lap 13 under safety cars. They'll be preserved over the next few laps. That should get them very easily to the end of the race. What we'll do is we'll come back to that point with you in just a second there, Badger, because over in Gareth's clip book, we have a litany of clips that he's going to show us. I'm going to let you talk through them all, otherwise I'm going to sound like a boring person making lists, Gareth. So over to you.
Yeah, it is a list of clips I've got. Let's start off with the TM Marduk incident where he has caused the safety car that we are currently in, coming through the sweeping corners, claims the 3rd victim of the day. Does it? Yes, because he loses it on the exit of that corner and drops it, overheating the soft tyres. And you can hear his reaction there. He is pretty angry.
That's one hell of a reaction. That's a really good reaction there. I'm half tempted to ask you to replay it and then we can just listen to it, but I won't be that cruel to Ben Daly. Absolutely not. So what we'll do now then is take us through the other clips that you have assembled whilst we're in the safety car period.
Well, we have I have 3 That Guy Vince clips. His first one is amazing. Late on the brakes after the last safety car and just up the inside of GB. Really good late on the brakes, but there was a little bit of contact and afters. We'll see as we go into turn 1 here. Very close to the inside, and that means he washes out a bit wide. And a bit of contact there as GB tries to muscle his way back onto the field. But I think overall, quite a clean move there from That Guy Vince. But another incident I want to talk about is what happened to Adam Sanderson, or Mr. Five Names. So going down the straight, he overtook GB here. GB68 was running slow because of a spin that I'll get to, and he got a legal overtake position. So that's why he had to back off, and that's why he was swarmed on the straight. So unfortunate there for Adam.
Go, GB.
And a little bit angry too, to boot. So there is that, and there's of course the spin from the driver who is That Guy Vince. We can see what happened to him going through turn 1, and he just over eager with the throttle turns in, and just watching that battle up at the front, and has been, and then GB68 causes a crash with him there. And then finally we'll go to a brain fart moment. We spoke about it already, but the brain fart moment from That Guy Vince, where he just ignores his delta. There's no like, oh, he just missed it. He's just not concentrating at all, and he completely missed it. So a good overtake followed by 2 nervous mistakes, let's say, from That Guy Vince. But yeah, back over to you.
Oh my God, delta.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. And their reaction says it all. Head in hands and shouting Delta. But yeah, thank you very much for that one then, Gareth. I'm sure that we'll be going back to you again before the end of the race. So, Badger, back to that driver we were discussing earlier on then, Liam. 2-lap old hard tyres, under safety car. Very much inside the window to be able to take him to the end. Do you reckon that is now the plan for them?
It should be. It certainly should be. I mean, you are on that strategy for a reason. He started on mediums hoping for exactly this, I would assume. And so he can definitely take the hard tyres to the end from here. I think the main hope for Liam is that no one else has, like, there's no more safety cars, which that's a hell of a bet to take. I don't see that coming true in the slightest. If it does, Liam will look like an absolute genius. But I just don't see that happening. But still, it is the right call. Riff Blondie, meanwhile, retires in the pit lane. Bit of a shame, but that has now brought the safety car in this lap as well, because now no longer do any cars cars need to catch up. So we're going to get underway in just a moment here with Van Heffen once again leading the charge and being the de facto safety car. But Liam, we'll see how it works out. It's a good call in my opinion. It's what I would have done, but we'll see with the amount of safety cars that we usually expect.
Absolutely. And so it looks as though you can hear on board there the extra use of fuel before then suddenly planting the throttle and actually shifting up a gear. And away goes Van Heffen. He leads the field away. And Alex Gillon is already up the inside then of Rasin Chai. And they make their way forward. Bushy Hansen, Hayden Gullis, the two Mercedes drivers fighting one another hard as they make their way down towards turn number 2 now. But into turn 1, it was all fisticuffs between the pair of them. And then a bit further back, Safso is incredibly close to the driver beside them as it turns out. Because look at this. On board now as we look to Devon Butler disappearing away. And so then it's just great traction and a bit of a use of ERS possibly with the McLaren there trying to get themselves up and past, and away they have done just that very thing. Meraki then, round!
Mr.
No,
Dale!
that's Mr. Dale! Mr. Dale round as they went side by side with Meraki, and that's
no
now...
safety car yet. No safety car yet. If the leader gets to the end of Sector 2 and that car of Mr. Dale is still there, then there's going to be a safety car, but I think the car will disappear in time as Van Heffen is currently making it through the castle section. That's not where the end of Sector 2... No, there it is. Whoa, it came early. Surprisingly early. We do get the next safety car here. No, maybe Baku's a little bit different. I don't know. But here we are with another safety car. And of course, it was caused by... Britain's favorite crash agent, 008, Mr. Dale in the wall for the 8th time this season. DNF.
Dear oh dear. Dear oh dear. It's a shame to be a Mr. Dale fan today. And for an awful lot of the races this season, really, if we're being honest.
You say that like that's not the case every week.
Exactly. But we won't be too harsh. We won't be too cruel. I tell you what, though, as to your comment, maybe Baku's a bit different. I think it's fair to say Baku's a bit different. Baku, a completely different beast to every other circuit. Van Heffen into the pits now then. The only one of the top 10 to do so, in fact.
I think that's not a good idea to pit now. By the way, look who has served his drive-through, by the way. And that's why I said that. That guy Vince. He's no longer with a drive-through, and now he's catching up to Van Heffen, to GB68, to... Takuma actually overtakes 2 of them. Look at that. Served his penalty and immediately gained 2 places from it. That is incredible. That is how you do it. If you are in such a long race and you get a drive-through penalty, especially when you expect 3, 4, 5, 6 safety cars, serve that penalty as soon as you can. Then you've got it out of your system, and the next safety car, even if it comes half a lap later as we saw, you're done with your penalty. You can go on with your life, and you actually gain 2 places in this case.
You certainly do. You certainly do. And I tell you what, it's a good thing that last week we introduced the clip book feature, because otherwise there'd be an awful lot of safety car filling we would have to do. We might even have to end up talking about current events or something. Who knows? But as it is, we have Gareth ready on standby. Gareth, you have a clip of the crash.
Unfortunately, Dale is out of another Creator Series race. Name a more iconic duo. But it was just a silly one, really. He went super aggressive into turn 3 here, and there was no contact on the entry. But you see, there was a car on the right-hand side. I don't think there was any contact. He just ended up spinning up his tyres on an odd part of the track.
I'd rather get the feeling that I think that just as a gut reaction from watching it on the broadcasts from the helicopter camera, or at least the high-angle camera, I think that this was just getting too greedy on the accelerator. Let's just see what the throttle input looks like as they go onto the exit of the corner. Did they light it up a bit too much? Well, they're in the second gear and they're pretty high on the throttle range, so in this game, with the way that the gear ratios work, you'd have to say that is just a too low a gear and too much throttle input.
Absolutely. Absolutely too greedy, and not a move I would have necessarily gone for, but then I probably would have been out on lap 2 as well. So, unfortunate for Dale.
Excellent. Yes, very good. Well, not very good, as it turns out, at all for Dale. But yeah, there we are then. We're just going to swap back over now then. So yes, there we go. What's the all?
Safso is in the pits, and he had no front wing.
Interesting.
That must have happened under safety car.
Yeah. Now, where has that happened? I'll tell you what,
That is
Gareth,
a
we
very
now
good question.
have your
Yeah.
next job.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Dear,
where
oh
the clipper
dear.
comes in incredibly handy.
Very handy
but yeah,
indeed.
Safso down to 15th. Obviously, a load of track position loss. Remember, he was in the top 5 for the most part this race. Now he's down to 15th and the last of those still in the race. So, yeah, a very uncharacteristic mistake there from Safso. Don't know exactly what happened. I didn't see it. I just saw the damage and him pitting. But yeah, very uncharacteristic for him. Usually he is a beacon of consistency here in the Creator Series. That's what made him the champion in Season 1. That's why he is the reigning defending champion of the Creator Series. And yeah, very interesting to see. Very much looking forward to whatever clip Gareth is going to have for us. But he has caught back up, so I would assume the safety car to be coming in at the end of this lap. Michael Massey, or whoever's in charge now, I forget their name. I know Michael Massey was last year, 2 years ago. But he's still iconic for all the right and wrong reasons.
I was going to say,
But-
the less that we mention Mr. Massey, probably the better. Not just for him, but also for us.
No,
There'll be a
he's
legion
iconic.
of fans of both sides saying that we both simultaneously hate their driver and like the other driver. And it's sort of, well, we can't do both.
No,
but
that's how the comments kick off. That's fantastic. More engagement. You know how so.
Well, I tell you what then, yes, engagement. Let's all talk about Abu Dhabi. No, let's not do that. Let's not do that. So, as it is then, safety car in at the end of this lap, so you get to see a bit less of our mugs for the time being, unless, of course, we get another safety car in another lap, as we did at the end of the previous safety car. So, this time, Alex Gillon back up at the front after losing that initial drive off of pole position through a mistake all of their own making down in towards turn number 1. It was not the Alex Gillon we know and love. And so, as a result, to see them back up where they belong is a good thing. But, of course, all sorts of strange strategic decisions have gone on behind them. And so now then, with tyres, they have not changed since the start of this race. They have taken us racing again. And you can see then that the chasing pack is a bit far away, but the pack in amongst all of that is close and fighting one another. Look at this then, down to first corner. Curbs then threatens the back of Rasinchai. Doesn't end up making it work in the end. Then Liam is all the way up to 6th place now after being down in 9th place. And now challenging Hayden Gullis up the inside. Have to back out the move in the end there, but those fresh hard tyres, near enough at least, are now going to give them all sorts of grip and purchase versus those 12-lap-old mediums and the 17-lap old hards in front of them. So they have now just a clean run to the end of the race here. Liam might be in pole position, pardon the pun, to end up taking the win here today. So as it is then, Infratic is just behind them on medium tyres, 13-lap old. Oh, not yellow flags immediately again. That guy Vince is now at the back of the pack, has gotten it going again. There we go, just spun. So there we are then. We've not got another safety car. We do, however, have Dirk Chocolate having a good old scrap with an entire field of cars behind them. Look at all of this then, this great bit of fighting we're seeing between all these drivers. And as we now jump over, we can see Dirk Cam. Look at the smile on his face. He's enjoying this one. He knows that the fighting is all going on behind him. Safso around the outside of Devon Butler there. Very out of character.
Overtake of the season.
Absolutely. I'm glad that we managed to catch just a sliver of that action. I'm sure that Gareth's going to get us a bit more of it later on. But goodness me. I mean, Devon Butler is being bullied a bit today, I think. An awful lot of bad juju is going their way. But there we are.
Almost in the wall as well in 10-15.
Almost in the wall, yeah, absolutely. And now then, Bushy Ants, winner of the last two Grand Prix, now makes their move to get on past Curbs, even before we get to the DRS zone. And there we are then, no DRS just yet, of course, owing to the fact that the safety car has still too recently come in. But now then, just behind this battle, you can see then that Liam is having a think about it again up the inside of Hayden Gullis into turn 1. Might be able to make something happen into turn 2 again. And if they do, then I think that this is going to be a case of when, not if, they get by the Mercedes driver, because at this stage, of course, there's big offset in terms of the tyre ages. I mean, Benjamin, talk us through what it is like then to have tyres that are 13 laps old with mediums in 100% Baku. How long can those go for realistically?
To be fair, a bunch of those laps will run under safety car, of course. So really, we're talking about probably 9 laps, maybe 8 or 9 laps of actual proper race trim wear. And at that point, they can definitely go another 20-odd laps. 20, 21, maybe even 22 laps from there. They can carry Hayden Gullis for a pretty long time. And remember, he started on softs, and he pitted onto those mediums at the end of lap 5. So I think he's hoping for another safety car right around lap 30. Could go as early as lap 20. So the next safety car could potentially be the one for Hayden Gullis to finally get off of these tires. But here's the thing. You generally want to pit during a safety car after a long stint of green flag running. So far, we haven't really had that yet. We've had 3 safety cars in 19 laps. There was simply no time for a lot of green flag running. But in this case, you want the field to spread out. You know, you want the fast guys to get ahead. You want the slow guys to fall behind.
Sorry to interrupt you, Badger. We've got Hayden Gullis now making the move on the inside of curbs here on the run down towards turn 1. But not only that, Liam is lurking in the wings as well. Might get 1, maybe even 2 up the inside of curbs they go. And just managed to make that move down towards turn number 1. Great bit of driving and opportunism for them there. And now in the background, curbs is under further attack from this time Van Heffen. And so now then, it's their teammate behind them. Hopefully they're going to be gentle and just allow their teammate through here. Not too much fighting, not lose each other too much time, anything like that. And now then, as they make the run down towards turn number 3, then it is as you were for that group of cars, with the exception being that Curbs is now at the back of that group rather than the front of it. Back to you, Badger.
Yeah, I wanted to praise Curbs actually, but currently he's moving backwards more than forwards. But with those tires, it's kind of to be expected, as we have a yellow flag. That is Devin Butler in the wall, I think. Or was he in the wall? He does have a tiny amount of front wing damage on both sides, but it's not that much. It should cost him about probably 8/10 a lap, maybe up to a second a lap, but won't matter too much. And he hasn't pitted yet, so I think he will use the next safety car to change the front wing. If someone's in the chat, you can go to Adam Sanderson's chat, because I'm not sure he knows this, but he should change his change front wing setting to yes from auto in the pit menu. So if someone can tell him to do that, make sure to go over there. It's I think Adam_Sanderson.
I think you are right.
He's quite new to the game. Obviously not as Devin Butler, but the Adam Sanderson, the actor behind Devin Butler, hasn't actually played the game.
Absolutely.
Isn't
once more then, sorry to interrupt again there, Badger, but on the start finish straight once again, we've got DRS, we've got action and overtakes galore happening here down towards turn number 1. It is Liam and Van Heffen side by side. They've both cleared Hayden Gullis on the run down towards turn number 1, and now they're going to go in towards turn number 2 here, and now Van Heffen leads this small train of cars only by about 0.3 of a second here. Could be, if there was a mistake, doesn't look like there was at all from the Alfa Romeo, that they could have been under threat from Liam behind. But as it is, no, Liam is going to have to tuck in behind for the time being and maybe just try and stick with the Alfa Romeo as best they can. Younger and medium tyres versus the hards that Liam is running. So, of course, Van Heffen may well need to pit again before the end of this race. In fact, probably will need to pit again before the end of this race. But, and that is the Ferrari of Taco Man off once again in the background there. Any sign of any damage on that car at all? Doesn't look like it. But, yeah, that's then things as they were there. Back up towards the top end of this field.
Once again, turn 3, catching not another victim, but the same victim again. El Tacoman, not the first time he has suffered there. And I think we got El Tacoman again spun around now on the exit of turn 6. Devin Butler going through, El Tacoman down to last. Keep an eye out, meanwhile, on Jared Jan Van Heffen in P4 right now with those fresh medium tires. He should easily reel in the top 3 right now. Certainly P2 and 3, Razin Chai and Bush Jans, and get away from Liam in P5. In fact, the gap is now just over a second. He might need to use a little bit of ERS, because I think Liam is back in DRS at the detection point, and yes, he is. So not the smartest choice as Razin and Bushy are battling. Bushy goes past with DRS on Razin Chai and into P2. And I think behind we had GB68 on fresh mediums go past Hayden Gullis as well. Safso and Infratic are battling. It's all kicking off.
It certainly is. Battles absolutely everywhere, more than you could possibly shake a stick at. We want to bring Gareth in order to have a look at an incident, but there's just too much action going on. So don't worry, Gareth, we will get you in at some point, I promise. I love you, darling. But there we go then. So Rasenchai up in third place, or down rather in third place now. 0.3 of a second off of Bushy Ants, the winner again of the last two races. Now just 2.4 seconds away from Alex Gillon at this stage. And so it could be that they're able to challenge for the race lead, but will they be able to challenge for the win? That's, of course, the big question, owing to all the various different strategy decisions that have taken place behind them. Van Heffen is now just within about a second or so, 1.1 seconds of this battling pair as well, and Meraki has been able to make their way ahead of Gaten Gullis in a part of the circuit you would never expect that move to happen, and Meraki with tyres that are only 6 laps younger as well, so not a huge difference there, and Devon Butler is in the wall, and it's caused a safety car.
Yeah,
well,
it's a debris safety car, in this case the front wing fully torn off the front of that Alpine, and I think he was stationary long enough that it was a sort of debris and stationary car for long enough kind of safety car. And once again, we don't get a lot of running under safety car for drivers to be really able to pit. Now, the tough question for the top 3 is, and for Curbs and for Devon Butler, it's not a difficult question really with that damage now. But for the top 3 and for Curbs, the question is, will they pit now? We'll see. It is possible to go mediums, and Alex Gillon's in. Bushy Ants follows, as does Rasenchai. Top 3 all in. JJ Van Heffen will take the lead of this race.
He certainly will. He certainly will. Now, as it is then, we are under safety car conditions once again here in the Creator Series, here at Baku. Now, has anybody been counting how many full safety cars that has been so far? I want to say 3.
Nope, it's at least 4.
At least 4, okay. So at least then...
5, but it's at least 4, I can guarantee that.
At least then we're now only one more safety car away from the limit of safety cars that the game is allowed to throw at you. So at least we'll then have green flag racing until the end after the next safety car.
I'm not so sure. So the safety car limit for 100% races is 6.
Oh no.
Yeah, for 50% races it's 5. Yeah, for 25% races it's actually 2. So that being said, I'm not sure, but I may remember we've had one Creator Series race with 7. So I think that limit of 6 is a thing of the past. I think the limit might be higher now.
Oh,
if
dear.
I remember correctly, we had one. Yeah, this is listen. We all expected this to happen.
We did.
We just didn't know how many, but we were sure, I think all of us, that there were going to be a lot of safety cars, and so far that's holding true. We are not even at the halfway point. We've had at least 4 safety cars, and Space Ghost is actually saying he thought this was number 5. See, I'm not sure. I know for a fact that it's at least 4. I'm just not sure whether it was 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think that maybe if you were to include a virtual safety car, we might be up to 5 by now. But of course they are separate. They're separate entities, of course. So that's maybe why some would be thinking 5, and you're saying 4. So that's that. But I tell you what, enough waffling from us two, because we've got Gareth and the clip book ready and awaiting. Gareth, please take us away, sir.
Yeah, we wanted to see that beautiful overtake from Safso, and I think it was more opportunistic than anything before. So here it is, the battle through the middle sector, really. Turns 4, 5, 6, 7 and the 8, where the overtake's done. That guy Vince spinning off at the start of the clip, but Safso's just sniffing and getting involved with this battle ahead, and being a bit more pokey and enthusiastic than I thought he would do, but it ends up being quite successful for him, because he gets to this position where he can go around the outside of Adam at Castle, and the reaction says it all. They were so stoked that they went too wide. Absolutely stoked that they went too wide. I think Adam was very, very generous to concede that position. Otherwise, they could have both ended up in the Leclerc wall.
Yes, I think you may be right there. You may well be right. So, in terms of this one then, we are now headed back to our live feed here, as you can see. And, well, Badger, I mean, we've seen an awful lot of good racing here today. And an awful lot of racing, shall we say, if we want to term it in that sort of a way.
Yes. We haven't. I feel like we haven't seen that much actual racing, to be fair.
I think you're being too harsh to the drivers.
Maybe. But that's sort of who I am. But yeah, we've seen a lot of safety cars, that's for sure. So we've finally figured it out, including with a big assist from chat here, mostly a Space Ghost. We figured out that it was 4 full safety cars. The first one was caused by just one alley, the second one caused by Tim Marduk, third one caused by Mr. Day, and the fourth one caused by Devin Butler. And one virtual safety car at the very beginning. So if you count that, it's 5, but I wouldn't count it. And I think Devin Butler just ended up in the wall again. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
dear,
got no
oh,
front wing
dear.
again. He overshot the corner of, I think that, hold on, let me count this real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, turn 7, just before the caster section. He ended up in the wall once more.
I mean, it does look as though, I mean, sort of from this sort of camera angle, or any camera angle really, it looks quite a sad sight, unfortunately. But it also looks as though, he's just going for a leisurely drive on a Saturday afternoon in Baku.
Yeah,
there's no other cars
exploring-
around. There's no noise.
The old city in Baku, the old town.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. I mean, one of the reasons why F1 chose this site to be a Grand Prix site, a Grand Prix venue in the first place, is because it's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Right? Or the old buildings, the castle. It's just a beautiful, beautiful city. And so, I don't blame Adam. I don't blame Devin Butler for deciding to just take a stroll through the city center of Baku on a Saturday evening here. But there is a race at hand as well, and it might do him a little bit better if he speeds up a little.
Just a little bit. But as we say all that, they go into the pits then to get that car serviced. New front wing. I tell you what, it's going to be interesting to tot up at the end of the season who's lost more front wings, either Devin Butler or the actual Alpine team. Who knows? But we then go into a pit stop for them then, and they are serviced. They go onto a new set of medium tyres. Now, talking about tyre strategy, of course, we know that the likes of Liam and Meraki are on tyres which should go to the end. For then the likes of Van Heffen and GB68, Safso you could include in there too, Infratic of course, and El Taco Man, they're on mediums which probably won't go to the end. So another safety car stop may be needed by them. But everybody else on the 2-lap old mediums, you reckon they can go to the end?
Yeah, those who are on the freshest of mediums, 2 laps or less. So Alex Gillon, Bushy Ans, Razin Chai, Hayden Gullis, Kerbs, Dirk Chocolate, and Devin Butler, they can definitely go to the end. El Taco Man, Safso, GB68, and Van Heffen, I'm not so sure. I'm not willing to say they definitely won't make it to the end, because you got to remember, yes, it shows 8 and 9 laps, but they spent a majority of those 9 laps behind the safety car. So those are not proper race laps. The wear on a safety car lap is about 1/3 of that on a proper race lap. So there is so much less wear. Really, 3 laps on the safety car are 1 normal lap. So you can basically reduce that 9 laps right now to about 6 and the 8 to 5. So at that point, with 26 laps remaining at the end of this one, I think it's possible. It's going to be a bit of a stretch, but it is possible for them to finish the race. The only driver really in this whole field who I can tell you right now is guaranteed to pit again is Infratic, because he pitted on lap 4. His tires are now 21 laps old. He has to pit again. And I would actually argue he should have pitted under the safety car. He decided not to do that. Bit of a strategy mishap from him there, because those tires are past their best. And if I just check real quick, I can't see his tire wear, unfortunately, but it should be around 40%, I would assume. The tires are not going to be great anymore. He's going to have to pit within the next probably 6 or 7 laps, which means he doesn't, up to 10, let's say, which means he doesn't even have time once the safety car reset happens to hope for a long green flag stint for the gaps to open up, which is what you need, what you want in this kind of case. Because as I said, everyone else can go to the end. Infratic cannot. So he's a bit of an outlier here, and you can basically put him down to about P30 13, 14, 15. It's all looking sunny right now for him, being 8 places ahead of his teammate in that intense rivalry, but that will not last.
It certainly will not. It certainly will not. So, I mean, as Infratix, let's say you're his race engineer at this stage, we can see him driving along here, both in the car and in his room. Now, given where they are with the tyre situation, what would you say is the best course of action for them right now?
Well, at this point, it's too late because the restart's going to happen in 3. Well, the message could come in 3, 2, 1. There it is.
There it is.
And I did start the 3 when the countdown would have been accurate. But now it's too late. But I would have pitted him this safety car period. I know Dirk came in, so it would have been a double stack. But sometimes you got to take that. He certainly would have set himself up a little bit better if he had he come in. But it is what it is. Now you just wait for the next safety car and then you pit for mediums.
Absolutely. So then we get ready to go racing once again then. Liam still wiggling a little bit in behind Van Heffen. And Van Heffen going nice and straight then, a bit, Abu Dhabi Kimi Raikkonen-esque, but it looks like they have gone, and it looks as though this time there is no napping from the field behind. They're wise to his tricks, and now pulling to the inside goes Liam up the inside into turn number 1. Liam takes the lead in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, but for how long? As back up the inside goes the Alfa Romeo, and now here comes the charging GB68. The fight between these two, very, very close indeed, but it doesn't end up coming off with any damage for either party, at least not that we can see. Now, just in behind, Safso in the McLaren, just making a move by Meraki then. Another driver then on the hard tyre strategy to go all the way to the end, like Liam is as well. But then in behind, it's all absolute chaos and pandemonium. We can see then that Hayden Gullis is in amongst this just litter of cars that are all starting to tumble over one another, losing places here, gaining places there. Alex Gillon has just made up a place now to get up into P5 too. And now then, as you can see, everybody just trying to get those tyres back up to temperature, finding their way around, getting themselves back into the groove of things. That's the other thing as well, to help with the consistency. You need consistent driving, consistent racing as Pushing Ants goes up the inside. Liam has then lost that position to GB68, tries to go back up the inside in the castle section, but it doesn't quite work for them. And so through all of this then, the drivers are just going to need to get themselves that consistency, that rhythm going again, to make sure they don't have more safety cars and more crashes. But as it is right now, it is looking racy in the field here. Alex Gillon tucked in behind Safso at the moment, much younger tyres on the AlphaTauri than the McLaren as they head round and down the hill then. Practically fresh medium tyres on that AlphaTauri, in fact, and now no DRS, of course, because the safety car has only just come in. We need 3 to be on the 3rd lap after it's come in before then we end up seeing anything there, but things are looking pretty good in this field for the time being. No crashes so far.
Yeah, the 2 major challenges for the drivers after such a safety car restart are the front tyre temperatures. The rears are okay. They are very easy to heat up here at Baku. The front tyres are the ones that struggle quite a bit, so it makes the car very understeery on the restart, and that's what we saw with a couple of drivers here. And then, as you said, the rhythm. When you get these constant safety cars, you can't build up a rhythm where, you're getting into a flow, you're getting into the sort of, okay, I know how to take every corner, and that is a struggle. And Infratic is losing positions here to Curbs, Hayden Gullis, Dark Vincent, Razinchai, 4 places lost in just one.
Sorry, just to interrupt you, just look at this fight here between Alex Gillon. It's side by side and top contact with Safso, and Safso is round. It was back and forth between the two of them. Now Safso sits right in the middle of the field. Everybody has to now dodge around them, and eventually, when they're now at the back of the field, they can get going again. But dear, oh dear, that is not how you want a battle to go at all. Looking at all these fights going on, back to green flag racing, and it looks as though the drivers then are just looking to be, again, trying to get in that rhythm. But Racing Chai end up losing a front wing end plate there in the fight with Infratic, I believe, on the run down towards turn number 1. They got very, very close indeed. Then a big gap opened up. There was no end plate on that front wing. And then, of course, Infratic made that mistake themselves in turn number 2 and end up losing so many positions, and now only just 2 tenths ahead of their teammates. It's the battle of the Red Bulls.
Yeah, meanwhile, Safso currently with 66% rear wing damages. Here goes Dirk Chocolate into turn 16, up the inside. That might not be the smartest move. You got to remember, DRS is now enabled, and that will give the DRS to Infratic down this long main straight. So I'm not sure that was the smartest call. Meanwhile, Alex Gillon passed Liam on the main straight with no... Oh no, DRS is now enabled. Sorry, my bad. I was a bit early there. But Alex Gillon into P3, and Dark Chocolate has to try to catch up to Curbs in front, or else he's gonna... Oh, misses the apex massively there. Dirk Chocolate not in the best of situations. I think Safso, no, does not retire the car, surprisingly, despite that heavy rear wing damage. I would have expected him to come into the pits, but he decided not to. But Dirk Chocolate holds on to the position in P11 right now, and crucially, ahead of his teammate.
Absolutely, yeah. It's bizarre to watch a car with 6 lap-old tyres versus a car with 24 lap-old tyres, still fighting one another reasonably close. But this is a great little scrap between these two. You know that they're just going for the moves. They're trying to overtake one another in parts of the circuit. They're maybe not the most intelligent parts of the circuit to overtake on, as you say, if DRS had been enabled. But with DRS not enabled, perfectly good place to overtake. And then, of course, also the bragging rights too. I overtook you. I got ahead. Is what they can say to one another in the debrief afterwards, of course. So, as it is then, they continue to go on fighting one another. At this stage, it looks as though Infratix tyres have now given up the ghost and have now started to really cede time to their teammate. In fact, now the gap to their teammate is as large as Dirk Chocolate's gap to Curbs in front. Meanwhile, we take a look further up the field. Alex Gillon on the charge here on some of the youngest tyres in the field, or amongst them at least, and is now closing in on the back of GB68, who's 2.3 seconds adrift of Van Heffen. But with DRS available this time round, I would imagine this is going to be only a formality for Alex Gillon here. Let's have a look and see. On board with the AlphaTauri driver, DRS opens up. The Aston Martin moves to the inside to try and defend, but it's all for naught as Alex Gillon sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix by about half a second, I think that was, to the previous record holder that was set only a few moments ago by Van Heffen. Went down into the 142s and up into second place.
Yeah, very good move there, but it's not over. GB68 now gets DRS on Gillon, and I think what GB is actually trying to do here is just stay with Gillon, because he knows Gillon's got an advantage, but it's only the tyre wear of about 5 race laps. I know it says 7 laps there, but you can remember 3 of those were under safety car, which equates to 2 laps less tyre wear in total. So, you know, it's about 5 lap difference of proper race trim. So it's not that big of a difference. So if you can get pulled along by Alex Gillon to get closer to Van Heffen, that certainly helps. It's a strategic thing here from GB, but it might not pay off. Ooh, as he almost hits the wall in the castle section. That was incredibly close there.
Look at this now, Dirk Chocolate up the inside. Sorry once again to jump over you there, Badger, but look at this. They're now going to go side by side in the castle section. Surely not. Surely these drivers are going to give each other room. And no, that guy Vince forces the door shut, slamming it in Dirk Chocolate's face there as the two of them go through the castle section. It was a valiant effort from both, but it was firm, fair defense from the AlphaTauri there. I tell you what, whilst this is all going on, I have got to let you know that we will have some clips from the clip book and Gareth in the not too distant future, but just whilst we've got this close battle on circuit, we're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to keep giving you the action that I'm sure that you all want to be seeing, and we will keep here with this one as Dirk goes round that final proper turn on the circuit and starts to power on up the hill then and towards the start finish line. DRS will be coming soon, of course, as they head through this part of the circuit. The car gets light at the back end, as we've seen so many times for drivers over this weekend, and now then moves to the outside, as it will be on the run down towards turn number 1. Does Dirk Chocolate. DRS opens up on that Red Bull in their straight line drag race with the AlphaTauri, and it looks as though things are still relatively closer you'd imagine for this point in the circuit and for how close they were when the DRS was opened up, but he does get the move done round the outside of that guy Vince as they're now heading towards turn number 2. The tables will be flipped, of course, and now Dirk, with a big snap of oversteer there, has to retreat to the inside, then back to the outside again, trying to not give the toe in the slipstream to that guy Vince, but that guy Vince is closing in, is thinking about it, move to the inside, in fact, shoves their nose in the door, just tries to make Dirk give them the room, which they do valiantly and very respectfully between these two drivers. It's actually allowed that guy Vince back into a battle which I thought was all done, and not only that, but Infratic is now threatening the back of their teammate as well. Side by side through turns 5 and 6 they go. Over the curbs has to go Dirk Chocolate, and somehow that guy Vince makes their way back up into P10.
That was incredible right there from that guy Vince round the outside of 6. Usually you want to have the inside there, but that guy Vince, incredible stuff from him. Meanwhile, a little bit further behind, not actually too much, it was actually possibly in the same frame. El Taco Man was going on with a bit of bullying. I think that's the only way you can describe it against Devin Butler. These two have history. Think back to Spa, where I was trying to engineer Devin Butler, and witnessed two of the biggest dive bombs I've ever seen that ultimately ended El Taco Man's race. They were committed by Devin Butler, so El Taco Man, not the biggest fan of Butler, and it showed in turn 3. He just sent a savage dive bomb in turn 3, and Butler had to open the steering to make sure there wasn't going to be any contact, and El Taco Man just had no remorse on that battle, and that was I think that was a bit of payback, and I think that felt quite good for El Taco Man.
I think so indeed. As they go through turn number 1, Infratic is under threat from Safso, and Safso completes the move before they get to the braking zone. But this fight here between that guy Vince and Dirk Chocolate, again, once more, they can go powering down this back straight here together, but this time I think Vince is going to be just that little bit too far back to actually make anything happen here today. And so now into the braking zone they go, maybe a bit too deep on the brakes. They lock up a front tyre there, and then they have to go a bit wide, take that wider line round. They end up losing time to Dirk Chocolate as a result, and that now means Dirk up into P10. So good bit of racing from the two of them. A great racing the previous lap, but this time I think that could have been seen as just a stay of execution, because along came Dirk Chocolate and disappear up the road he has done. GB68 gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, the first of our time penalty for multiple warnings that we've seen today for a car still running. I think we saw one for Just Hun or for Riff Blondie earlier on.
Riff Blondie it was, yes.
That was the one, yes, absolutely.
Earlier. But the first one of the cars that are still in the race, and yeah, not too many warnings either. We still have 4 cars on the track with no warnings whatsoever. That would be our leader, Van Herfen. That would be Liam and Meraki in P5 and P6. And Hayden Gullis, quite surprisingly, he's usually one to get some of the first warnings and penalties in the race. But he stayed warning-free so far in P8.
There we go then. So, all different, all change in this one. Moves constantly happening all the time. We're likely to possibly see another one here down the start-finish straight. We've got Hayden Gullis tucked in behind Rasin Chai. You can see just in front there in this battle, but that then means that we're just in a little bit of a DRS train at this stage. The Alpine able to stay ahead of the Mercedes for now, and then that carrying of speed means they're just able to keep curbs behind for the time being. So I think this is a great time to reintroduce Gareth. Gareth, I hope that you've not gone to sleep in the time that you've been sat there waiting. Talk us through those clips that you've got of some overtakes and some spins.
Well, it's all overtake. Well, actually, there is a bit of a spin, but Alex Gillon on the move, currently in second position in the race. But this was his restart, a bit of a scary moment straight away at the restart, lap 26 going on to 27. In fact, it kind of checks up, somehow no wing damage, but Alex Gillon takes action and goes straight up the inside, turn 1, job done there. Meanwhile, Savso overtakes Meraki up in front, and so does Alex Gillon. He follows through just around turns 6 and 7. He does a little bit of a lock-up for Meraki there, and Alex Gillon decides, right, I'm going to go around the outside of you here, which is massive, really, but I think Meraki knew he wasn't going to be able to defend that one. But if we jump over to that crucial Safso contact, which has really put Safso further down the order. It was another move from Alex Gillon, and looking at it once already, I really feel like it was Safso who was more at fault, because he lost it through the corner. But up to turn 3 to go. Alex Gillon initiates the overtake, gets up the inside cleanly. There's enough space for 2 cars there, just good racing between the 2 of them. And then here we are, Safso just runs a little bit too deep. Gillon feels it, and he spins himself out. So a bit of a karma, let's say there, and Safso ends up facing the wrong way.
Absolutely, there we go then. So update with Gareth there. Thank you very much, Gareth. And again, reminder for everybody, if you want more clips for Gareth to analyse, go chuck them into the Stream Clips channel in Dirk's server. That's the way to get them on the stream, unless, of course, Gareth is quick on the draw and is able to get them clipped himself whilst watching all of the streams at once. I don't know about you, Badger, but I don't think I could do quite that. I was just sticking to the Stream Clips section of the Discord last time out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that either. But meanwhile, we have a lot going on in the very back. Devin Butler is back up to P13, past both El Taco Man and Infratic. And it was a bit interesting the way he did it. He got past El Taco Man cleanly, and then in turn 3, last lap, not this lap, last lap, gave a little nudge to Infratic's rear. Infratic got all loose, and then Devin Butler said, right, I'm going on. Took the position into turn 4 quite easily, as Infratic was still busy catching the rear of his car. and that's Devin Butler into P13 on those fresher medium tires. So he's trying to make a charge for it, trying to hunt down that guy Vince. What I have to say though is a huge kudos to Safso. The man is driving with 66% rear wing damage. That is
Sorry to interrupt you, Badger, but we've got to move for the lead of the race here. Alex Gillon finally manages to make their way onto the back of Van Heffen, and with DRS manages to move up into the lead of this race, reclaiming that top spot on lap 35 of 51. Now then, we'll take the run down towards turn number 2, and we'll see whether or not there's any sort of reply that's going to be offered here by Van Heffen. On board with the Alfa Romeo now then, as they make their way up towards turn number 3, DRS open, of course, for them, being right tucked in behind Alex Gillon on the run from turns 1 to 2, but no such overtake happening this time. So for the time being, it looks like Alex Gillon in the lead, and with younger tyres than Van Heffen, you'd expect them to keep it. Back to you, Badger.
Yeah, certainly Gillon should stay ahead here and pull a gap quite drastically. He was the fastest man in qualifying, and it seems like he's more consistent on race pace as well, so expect that gap to go up to second. But yeah, what I was saying about Safso, that rear wing damage should cost him not only significant lap time over the course of a lap, it should also make his car borderline undrivable, because he's got no rear downforce anymore, really, at least not from the rear wing, and that is a significant amount of downforce lost from the car. And so with no rear downforce but still the same amount of front downforce, well, what's going to happen? The front of the car is going to turn in, but the rear of the car doesn't follow. It wants to go straight on, and that's how you spin. So lots of oversteer now for Safso, and he still manages it incredibly well.
It certainly does. I mean, Safso, they are driving a McLaren. Maybe they're just trying to role-play the 2018 machine. That had no downforce in any configuration at the rear end of the car.
2023 version.
Yeah, exactly, yes. But that being said, though, McLaren, much more competitive this weekend so far in the real-life race. We're not going to tell any results or anything like that here on the stream, but it looks like going into the Grand Prix tomorrow, they may have a good chance of turning their season into a bit of a starter after a bit of a struggle so far to get off of the ground and going. But as it is, we've got this fight here then with Curbs versus Rasenchai. It has been a multi-lap affair really between the pair of them, but Curbs now gets alongside, gets the DRS open. But that being said, Rasenchai is still there. You can see them now, and only now do they start to dip in behind when the top speed really starts to ramp up between the pair of them. And Bushy Ants is now up into second place, although only for a moment in turn number 3, as then on exit, Van Heffen is able to get that Alfa Romeo back past the Mercedes again. So good bit of back and forth going on between these drivers here, but whilst they're fighting, of course, they're only going to allow Alex Gillon to get away. The more you fight, the more time you lose, and so they're going to start to invite potential threats from GB68 behind, though of course they carry that 3-second time penalty. And then for Alex Gillon, of course, 2.2 seconds up the road. He, of course, if he sees them fighting and losing time, can then start to either drive away or ease off and not be at too much risk of damage and penalties and all the rest of it. It's one of these things where being in the controlling position of a race while people fight behind you is such a valuable position to be in. Now, in terms of this one then, we keep an eye on this one, but elsewhere in the field, I can tell you Meraki is in a good close fight with Liam at the moment. Those two drivers on the exact same strategy as one another until the end of this race, unless we get another safety car, of course. And now, as these two drivers head round the last final proper turn on the circuit, we see then Dirk Chocolate is also very close to the back of Safso at the moment. So those two might end up coming to blows relatively soon as well. And Safso then will be put under a test, but as it is right now, the only thing being tested is the patience of Van Heffen, because they're now going to be passed again for second place, this time by Bushy Ants. And now as they make their way down in towards turn number 1, then the Mercedes is ahead of the Alfa Romeo, but will it be the same as they get to turn number 3? Things are going to be very close indeed, because again, Van Heffen has looked supreme in the traction zones in these slow speed corners, able to drive away from cars behind or get closer to those in front. And now with DRS open, they're going to be that little bit closer on the run down, but I think that Bushy Ants may well be using a bit of ERS to defend there. The gap doesn't really change at all, save for about a tenth or so as they head into the braking zone. So that's Bushy Ants up into second place, 2.9 seconds off Alex Gillon.
And meanwhile, Bushy now through, and yeah, I think he's gonna pull away from Van Heffen quite quickly. Gap is already up to 9/10. It's gonna be a second shortly. Yeah, there it is actually. It just happened. There's 1 second. So yeah, it's gonna be difficult for Van Heffen to maintain this. I think at this point he needs a safety. Well, maintain P3 I think is going to be quite easy for him, because if we compare to the cars directly behind him, GB68 is 6 seconds away. Liam is, what is that, 14 seconds away? Almost, 13 and a half. So that should be quite easy, but getting to the 2 in front, not really possible. Now, this is an interesting time in the race, because if there was a time for a safety car, it would be very, very interesting right now. The question would be, what do the drivers go on to? What tire do they choose? The soft tires last up to 15 laps before they get to puncture territory, but they won't be in the best condition. They really competitively only last about 12 laps at best, and you don't want to stay on them too long. So when is the time, when is that crossover point for the drivers to go on to soft tires and not mediums anymore? We're getting close to that, but we're not quite there. Let's see if there's going to be another safety car. With 15 cars still out on track, as Infratic has actually made a green flag pit stop, my bad, on the end of the previous lap, and he is now out there on fresh mediums. And if there was a safety car now, he'd be the #1 loser of that.
Absolutely, he would be. And now then, we take a look a little bit further back to one of the closest battles on circuit right now. I mean, in terms of this, I mean, we had so many close battles earlier on, and now the field seems to have petered out a little bit more. People have found that rhythm we were talking about, and have started to get themselves into their own sort of individual spaces on the road, really, not really overlapping with one another. Certainly that's the case, with the exception of Meraki chasing Liam in the top 8, top 9, but then in 10th, we've got Safso, of course, with that heavily damaged rear wing, trying to make something happen against Rasin Chai, and then Dirk Chocolate close in behind to pick up the spoils, if any of that all were to go wrong, of course. And now as they make their way up through the castle section, just let's go on board and have a look at Safso then, and based on the damage that you can see in the data, in the telemetry, of course, Badger, what would be the telltale signs if you didn't have access to that data and you were looking at this on board to be able to see that there was something not right with this car?
It's actually quite tricky to tell, because Safso does such a good job of controlling the car throughout the corners, but usually it would be in a high-speed corners, the ones coming up in particular, not this turn 16 here, but when we get to 17, 18, 19, 20, this section right here, this left-hander and this right-hander, I'm amazed that he can stay flat out through there. But also the top speed should be a bit lower with the amount of damage that he has, because the rear wing is also quite important, but he does have DRS, so that masks the issue quite a bit as well. But yeah, of course, if you have the rear wing damage, then that will certainly not improve your drag. It will certainly increase drag of the car as things are sticking out and things are not in the place where they should be. So the straight line speed is going to be slightly impaired, but also high-speed corners in particular. Not these slow and medium-speed corners. That's not really where it's going to feature too much. But once we get to both 13 and 14, the two left-handers, before 15, before the tricky corner where Juswan Ali finished his race, and of course the section of 17 to 20.
Absolutely. So yeah, closest battle on circuit at the moment then. We've still got this fight going on. And again, reminder for you, if you want to submit clips, if there's been some things that we have missed and you've seen on your favourite creators' Twitch channels, they are all live this evening, those taking part. And so give it a clip if you've seen it and we haven't, send it on in, and then Gareth will talk us through it. But as it is then, closest battle right now is actually not this one. It's this one here between Meraki and Liam. Out of the final proper turn they go. And the gap now under 0.3 of a second. It has been building up as this one to a crescendo, and I have a funny feeling that it's going to happen this time. The Williams is closing in at a rapid pace now. DRS opens up at the back of the car, and they go moving on past the Haas with little to no difficulty, move back in front of them, and that is P5 for the Williams for the time being. However, are we going to end up seeing, of course, any sort of counter-attack? That is the real question, because again, same age tyres for these drivers, and so therefore it's all down to that gentle use of the throttle pedal. But that being said, maybe it was a bit less gentle for Liam that time, because they have lost time with the back end of the car having a little bit of a twitch as they came out of the exit of the corner, and oh dear, Adam Sanderson gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, rookie mistake once again. He goes for softs, and here's the thing. I'm looking at the gaps right now, and I tell you right now, you lose in the pit lane here around 16 and a half seconds. Maybe 17 if you slightly mess up the entry, maybe even 17 and a half, up to 18, let's say, if you really take the entry slowly. But even then, look at the gap that Alex Gillon currently has to Meraki. That's 21 seconds. So if Alex Gillon were to pit for soft tires right now, out of the lead, he would be 3 seconds ahead of Meraki, as we have a yellow flag. That is El Taco Man, I think.
It certainly is. It's a Ferrari.
Yeah,
we have only one.
Is that going to be a say? Oh, he uses reset to track.
Cheeky little reset to track.
Yeah. I think we're okay. All right. But if Alex Gillon were to pit, I think that...
Whoa, big mistake from Rasenchai! Rasenchai in the wall! Rasenchai loses their entire front wing. We just switched to that battle there between them, and that's a safety car!
And Van Heffen is in right behind the safety. Oh, that's beautiful.
That's a beautifully timed pit stop.
Yep. And he reacted immediately when the safety car came out. But he's going for mediums. Oh, at this point, when we have another drive for penalty.
Dear.
This time, Devin Butler, Adam Sanderson speeding under safety car. That is a drive-through penalty, and that is a painful one, because likely this is going to be the last pit stop. But what I was trying to say is Van Heffen goes for mediums. I would have gone for softs here. Meraki also mediums. To be fair, it might be that some of the drivers do not have a fresh set of softs available, at which point new mediums are the better option over used softs. That I can say. So in this case, absolutely no criticism to Van Heffen, to Meraki, to Vince, to Rasenchai. They did the right thing. If they don't have any more new softs available, going for the new mediums, totally fine. In any other case, if they had new softs and they thought the softs weren't going to make it, then I disagree with it. I wonder what Alex Gillon is going to do. He should come in and he should go for new softs. He would only lose one position, and that only if Bushian stays out. So I think both of them are going to come in. They're going to stay 1-2, because right now the gap is big enough at 23 seconds. As I said, you only lose about up to 18 and less under safety car. That it's totally viable for both of them to come in, not lose a position, and continue racing with brand new, probably soft tires. Bushy definitely has soft tires. Remember, he was eliminated in Q1, so he definitely has soft tires still available. Hasn't used any this race. Got eliminated in Q1. He has 2 sets of fresh softs available. Alex Gillon also should have a set of softs, because he only used, I think, he used 2 new sets in Q3 and 1 new set in Q1. Only a used in Q2, so he has a 4th set available and uses that right now. So both of them did the smart thing here, came in onto soft tires, Van Heffen on mediums. Hayden Gullis now in with a 1-lap delay. Again, absolutely justifiable. He is going to rejoin where he would have rejoined anyway, had he pitted a lap earlier. So it's not any actual position loss here for him, which is going to be ahead of Curbs in P7. And yeah, I think that's everyone done. Infratic has to stay on his mediums because they're only 5 laps old. There's not much point in pitting right now and losing another position. At that point, you do want to take the track position because the amount of wear is negligible.
Certainly is. Certainly is. Thank you very much for that. So then, that is how things look right now then, as we go behind the safety car once again. Now, as you can see from the track map, this is a subtly different arrangement to what we had earlier on. Usually when the safety cars were called earlier on, we had most of the snake all together, and then, of course, it was relatively quick. I say relatively. Of course, we did have the occasional straggler way off at the back of the field. But sometimes it was a very relatively quick safety car. This time, I would imagine it's going to stay out for a little while as we wait for everybody to be collected. But in order to get us through that next little while, what we have is we have some clips from Gareth's clip book. So, Gareth, talk us through it then. You've got a few different moves and overtakes and crashes and bits and pieces to have a look at with us here.
It's more just errors, actually. Adam Sanderson, he's been in, and the wars to the max today. He's had a lot of problems, and I want to point out why he got this drive-through, because he reacted very strongly. Not drive-through, sorry, the speeding in the pit lane. He reacted very strongly, but if we look here, he gets his speed down to about 74 miles per hour. and it's an 80 kilometre an hour speed limit. So he has no idea why he missed that. But basically, he's doing miles per hour. Those boards are on kilometres per hour. So he was a little bit furious with that. And as well as that, he also had a little bit of a wobble on the way out. But we'll also go over to El Taco Man, who had a bit of a wobble too in the Ferrari, down into turn 7. And basically just missing his braking point and really clumsily hitting the wall. Here we go. And there we are. Just a little bit of an instant there. And what can you do? What can you do about that? And then a spin afterwards. He could have done something about that.
Exactly.
So, that's it. Rasen Shai, unfortunately, I can't get that clip because his F1 game runs at 10 frames per second without streaming. So, yeah, unfortunately, his laptop can't handle it.
Ah, dear, oh dear. Well, there we go then. We have the brief image of it when it was on the stream, of course, but we will go back to the racing action then. So, as we can see then, Badger, things are still relatively, tame right now behind the safety car, but you can almost feel and sense that the drivers are now starting to get a bit agitated and a bit ready to go. They've got those soft tyres on. They know there's not many laps left in this race. It is going to become a bit of a bun fight, really, when we look at it at the run-in.
Yeah, we might get actually the safety car restart either at the end of this lap or the next lap, because Infratic just pitted for brand new softs at an interesting time, I would say. But I think he wants to give himself a little bit of an advantage over the other cars, because El Taco Man has been pushing on those soft tires for 2 laps now. How much? I don't really know how much he's been pushing, because obviously he's been staying to the Delta for a little bit of it, but for the most part I think he was actually pushing to catch up to the safety car. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. For Alex Gillon, it's been smooth sailing. He's been taking those soft tires really, really slowly. Same with Bushy Ants, same with GB68. And then the further you go down, the more wear you will see for that 1 lap, 2 laps, 3 lap old softs. It's very interesting to see, but I think we might just get 1 more lap behind the safety car here, as El Taco Man and Infratic have not caught up just yet. They're about 10 seconds out.
Absolutely. So there we are then. We watched them going along, and a Red Bull and a Ferrari out on their own on the circuit somewhere. You'd be forgiven if we turned all of the menus off for a moment, that this might be the fight for the lead, given how Formula 1 has gone this and last year. But no, as it is, they catch on to the back of the safety car queue. I'm amazed in a way that we've still got 15 runners. I thought that the attrition would be significantly higher in this one, as into the pits comes Infratic and El Taco Man. What on earth is happening?
I have no idea. I can't see whether they have any damage. I can tell Infratic does not have a wing change. Neither does El Taco Man. So I don't know what they're doing. They may both have... So let me see real quick. Yeah, so El Taco Man was eliminated in Q1. So he definitely has another set of softs, fresh softs available. Infratic, on the other hand, I don't know if he has another set of fresh softs. But yeah, I think they just wanted the freshest tires possible, because they were pushing so hard to get close to the safety car. Their tires wore out the most, so they had nothing to lose to come in again.
That's a fair assessment, and they've already started to catch up by a rate of knots. They will do by the end of the second sector, which is of course where the game will then recall those safety car, the safety car, not those safety cars. There's not more than one, or at least not last time I checked anyway. I guess there's a Mercedes one, I guess. But they don't operate at the same time, is basically what I'm saying. But yeah, on board with Fabio then, as he's got the smile on his face. So maybe he's just thinking. Maybe he's just gotten it in his head. He's like, okay, we know the plan. We know what we're doing. We've caught the back of the queue. We've then gone in for the fresh tyres. Everybody else has been running around for 2, 3, 4 laps, you can see there, on those tyres, albeit under safety car. And as you said earlier on, each lap under safety car, provided you're not pushing, of course, is equivalent to only about a third of normal tyre use. So you might as well say that there's only 1 lap of use on some of these tyres and less than a lap of use on some of the younger ones. But as it is then, we come down now, and yes, confirmation that safety car is in at the end of this lap. So Alex Gillon and Bushy Ants will have a close fight to the finish here, you would imagine, whereas Van Heffen, Meraki, that guy Vince and Rasen Chai all on significantly weaker tyres, shall we say, as we get ready to go racing once again. and weaker relative to the field, I should say. They're obviously not weak in and of themselves. They're 3-lap-old mediums in a 100% race, so they've got plenty of performance and pace in them, but when you compare them to similarly aged soft tyres at the beginning of their life, well, this is going to be something interesting to deal with here. And Alex Gillon has gone. He has bolted, and this time, again, Bushy Ants is sticking close to them. 0.3 of a second between the pair. Van Heffen has initially lost time and has started to gain it back again. And as they head down in towards turn number 1, then let's hope that the camera changes here. It doesn't. Let's switch to a different car instead. And Van Heffen then goes through turn 1, all absolutely fine. All the drivers behaving so far. And as it is, they go through turn number 1. Doesn't look like anybody's going for the mother of all dive bombs just yet. But as we go a bit further back in the pack, I have some sort of a suspicion it might be down here towards the back end of the points that we might end up seeing something like that. No, I might be wrong. It actually might be GB68 here on the run down towards turn number 3. They're very close to the back of the Alfa Romeo there, but as it is, close but no cigar. Safso then is able to make a move, and down the order goes Curbs! Curbs makes a mistake there. I suspect that's all down to just lighting up the rear tyres, as we saw earlier on for Mr. Dale. And yeah, that's them now essentially out of this race. They're 5.9 seconds off the back of the field. It's likely to be green flag running to the end of the race unless we get another safety car. And so as a result then, that's them pretty much toast down and out. For Safso, I just want to give a shout out to them because they are doing phenomenally well given they're out carrying all of this extra damage at the back end of the car. The new tyres will be helping that, of course, giving them the extra mechanical grip, but they're up against drivers who have similarly aged tyres, similarly aging performance, shall we say, with the exception that they've got functioning rear wings and he doesn't. So this is some great racing there. El Takuman has been able to make a move on Devon Butler through that back triple, quadruple, whatever you want to call it, left-hander sequence. And as they now start to power out of that last final proper corner, we can see then purple second sector for Alex Gillon as they really try and now get the hurry up on this car and try and get away from Bushy Ants. But Bushy is sticking close enough with them where if DRS were enabled, they would be able to get it now. But as it is, it's not, so they can't. That's my Murrayism for the day. But here we go then, down towards the first corner, and of course, new fastest lap of the race for Alex Gillon, 1:41.1. Quicker than what some drivers managed in qualifying, of course. So Meraki then is close to the back of another driver there, GB68. We've then got Liam close in that battle as well. Those long, hard tyre stints then paying off not just for them, but also for Meraki as well. Meraki on those medium tyres, though, in a little bit more of a tricky situation when it comes to the relative pace of the softs around them. Then you have Safso now just 0.3 of a second behind Hayden Gullis in this run down towards turn number 3. And again, no DRS yet, so no danger to the Mercedes this time.
Yeah, not this time, but it might still happen at some point. A lot going on, and yeah, for Curbs, it's really heartbreaking because he was running so well for most of this race, and then one mistake late when everybody's bunched up, and that can undo your whole race. He was on for points here, which would have been an incredible result. He's only scored 1 point so far in the Creator Series, and that was at the season opener in Bahrain. It actually required me engineering him to get that 1 point. I will never let that go. I will always let that until he scores points again, which it seems like he won't do. He needs a safety car. It's still possible. Once the leader starts lap 49 of 51, the safety car can no longer come out. So as long as it still says 48 or lower, in this case 46 right now, in the top left, the safety car can still happen. Whether it will, that's up to the drivers and how they drive. But Bushy Ants now fallen off of Alex Gillon, get 1.6 seconds there between the two, and then Van Heffen in P3, and I think that will be the best he can do as another fastest lap from Alex Gillon, 41 flat, and that would have been good enough to make it into Q2 if he had set that kind of lap time in qualifying in Q1. So that's how quick that is.
Absolutely blistering pace that we're seeing at the run-in here. El Takuman has just made another position up on that guy Vince. It's then going back and forth between the two of them. Look at that side by side through turn number 2 as they make the run up the hill. Well, not up the hill, but along the straight now, down towards turn number 3. The pair of them very, very close indeed. Safso with another move, this time on Hayden Gullis. A bit further up the road, the Ferrari manages to get ahead of or keep ahead rather, of the Red Bull. Safso, yeah, manages to swing it around the outside of Hayden Gullis in turn number 5, all the way, or turn 4, I should say, rather. And now yellow flags in second Sector 1, Infratic has spun round, and so that's then a mistake for them. They've lost positions as a result now to Curbs. Might lose one to Devon Butler. No, it looks like they've gotten going quickly enough to keep Butler behind, but for the time being, it looks as though we've got another good scrap going on between all these drivers here. We've got then a little bit further up the road, Meraki still within a half second of GB68 and turn only 6/10 off of the car in front. Then you've got Liam behind by 1 second of Meraki. Then Safso, 1.2 seconds you can see here. Then Hayden Gullis, 1.2 seconds further back from them. Dirk Chocolate, very, very close to the back of Hayden Gullis at the moment. In fact, this one of the closest battles on the circuit right now. DRS has been enabled, of course, as well. And so now then, all Dirk needs to do is just stay nice and close on the run down the hill here into that final proper corner and then plant the throttle, plant the car, and try and get that move done on the way down towards turn 1. Let's jump on board with the Red Bull and see how they do it. Over to you, Badger.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a moment for Dirk Chocolate there on the exit of the corner. Almost lost the car. That delayed the ERS deployment a little bit, but he's using it now. He is close enough as GB68 goes past Van Heffen for P3 right now, but Van Heffen might come back at him. GB68 needs to book it right now. He needs to run as quickly as he can to drive out that 3-second time penalty that he has. Dirk Chocolate not close enough to make a move on Hayden Gullis just yet, but maybe he fancies it more into turn 3. This is a good overtaking opportunity as well, and he gets the exit for it. He doesn't use the battery, and he sees Hayden Gullis blinking. He still does not use his battery. He's still got 20% left.
Not only that, but look at this. Up the inside goes Rasid Chai. Brilliant move. Suddenly late on the brakes, pulling out from behind the Red Bull and then diving up the inside. Late move there, and that's then put Dirk Chocolate offline and out of the points as El Taco Man also moves by the Red Bull. Brilliant bit of racing there going on between these drivers, and for Dirk, it is unfortunately the worst way to start the run-in on this particular race. Lap 48 of 51, of course, as you say, all Alex Gillon needs to do is make it to the end of this lap without there being a safety car coming out, and then it's green flag running all the way to the end here. Now then, this battle is very, very close here, but it's also very close between Meraki and Van Heffen at the moment. Van Heffen has fallen backwards here, but now on equal tyre strategies, will they be able to keep in front of the Williams? That is the question then, as they round the corner, start to come back down the hill. Gravity on their side, of course, helping with the acceleration. Now as they head through the left-hander and start to get onto the back straight, then this is where it's going to be really, really important for Meraki. They're going to need to make sure that they have all the batteries saved up. They're going to have DRS ready to pop open at the very moment that they need, and then they're going to end up being able to make that move happen. Let's watch then as the Williams goes to the inside, and now DRS open. It looks like it's going to be a very, very academic overtake. Past the Alfa Romeo they go, long before the braking zone, and that means it is P4 for Meraki and only 1.6 seconds to go. If they can catch GB68 before the end of this one, and a podium is, or rather I should say, if they're able to maintain their gap to GB68 as it is right now, the penalties that GB has means that Meraki will be on the podium here today.
Possibly, yes. At this point, GB68 is not driving out enough of a gap, but that might change.
Whoa! Sorry to jump over you there. There's just suddenly Hayden Gullis trying to make the move out from behind El Taco Man, but beside them was Dirk Chocolate there, and so the pair of them nearly ended up coming to blows and nearly ended up going into the wall on the run down towards turn number 3. Sorry to jump across you like that. I'm sure that must have terrified the ever-loving daylights out of you. But yeah, sorry, back to you, Badger.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, if Van Heffen starts battling with Meraki, all of a sudden both of them could lose enough time to where GB can drive out that gap of 3 seconds. Currently, if we go by last lap, actually that might not be necessary, because it looks like GB68 is gaining about 7.5 tenths per lap on Meraki. At that point, if he continues driving out that gap, it would be enough, but the first sector was not good enough. In fact, Meraki gained a little bit back on GB68. Middle sector, though, only 2 tenths gained for the Aston Martin. I think that's not quite going to be enough, but Van Heffen really falling off and now into the clutches of Safso, who is looking to potentially make a move. Everyone is running low on battery at this point, except for, well, guess what? Exactly, your race leader, Alex Gillon. He is still sitting on about 70% battery charge right now. Absolutely incredible on his part. Really, really good. And Dirk Chocolate going past Hayden Gullis, and that guy Vince trying to take both at the same time. Hayden Gullis must have felt like Ricardo Zonta at Spa plenty of years ago when both Hakkinen and Schumacher just blew past him on the straight at Spa-Francorchamps, and that guy Vince is now pulling off, and Hayden Gullis and Dirk Chocolate battling and touching. They keep touching. Is this lack of Dirk's awareness in cockpit cam? He famously is one of 2 drivers in the Creator Series who run cockpit cam. Did he just not see Hayden Gullis there? Oh, and they touch as well. No damage there to Dirk Chocolate's car. But my goodness, what is happening in Fratic?
And Infratic is out!
That is a yellow flag, but definitely no safety car at this point. It's way too late for that. Safety car can't come out anymore. This is not Abu Dhabi 2021. And we have 14 cars left. Where is the next battle?
Where is the next battle indeed? Well, I think I found it. It's Safso chasing after Van Heffen. This has been a drive of drives by Safso today. Up against it with all sorts of problems and collisions and other bits and pieces. Round at one point as well and pointing the wrong direction. They've somehow now managed with whatever it was earlier on, 66% rear wing damage to now be up in 6th place and within striking distance to maybe make the move happen. If not down to turn 1, then possibly into turn 3. Let's just keep an eye on this battle and as it fully develops here. And Van Heffen possibly using a bit of ERS trying to scamper away, but it's not really working for them as it turns out. And now Safso is closing back in once again. 6 tenths, now 5 tenths, now 4 tenths. It's coming down and down and down all the time as they go into the first corner. Still good grip on those soft tyres for the McLaren as they go through then half a second back as they head down in towards turn number 2. We're on the final lap here with Alex Gillon leading the way, but we are currently watching this battle here. Rear wing open for the McLaren, not for the Alfa Romeo. And will this be their position as they head into turn 3, or will there be an almighty contact between them? No, this time they stay sensible. They stay tucked in behind, and it could be that on the run to the line is where it ends up happening. But as it is, things still very, very close. You could not tell anything apart between these drivers. The offset between the softs and the mediums still very evident, even at this stage after 10 laps of running. Of course, some of those behind the safety car, yes, of course, but after that period of time, you'd expect there would be at least some offset in terms of the softs versus the mediums. But as it is, things are still looking reasonably good between these two right now, though it looks like a mistake from Safso. Really, really deep into the right-hander, and they've now lost time at an enormous rate of knots, and now they've dropped outside of a second. That looks to now all be done, but I tell you what is not done just quite yet. It is this race, although it will be very, very soon. On their return to the Creator Series, they came back, they looked punchy, they looked racy, they came back and set the pole position time. They came through and had an enormous amount of overtaking to do. They lost that pole position after a mistake in turn 1. They fought back through, they made the right strategy calls, they made the good moves, and now in the run up to the line, Alex Gillon wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix and sets fastest lap to boot as well. 140.7 absolutely demolishes the competition here today. We take a look back now to Van Heffen in that battle right at the end there, and apart from a spinning Meraki in front of them who does get the podium after GB68's penalty, Van Heffen manages to come across the line only 9 thousandths of a second ahead of GB68. Then comes Safso, 2.1 seconds back. Those tyres maybe just giving up, or maybe the damage on the car becoming too severe for them. Then El Taco Man in 8th place, Rasin Chai in 9th, Hayden Gullis 10th, Dirk Chocolate 11th, Curbs 12th, and Dat Guy Vince 13th, with Devon Butler going to be the one to come round and show us through to the end of this race. They're currently going through the castle section, but for the time being, we will look at this driver here, Alex Gillon, and what has been, frankly, an imperious performance.
Yeah, certainly. It was incredible. Alex Gillon once again showing why he is one of the guys to beat here in the Creator Series with another win. Now ties Tiamat Marduk for most race wins in the Creator Series with 4 each over the course of the Creator Series history so far. So they're both at 4 now. Who will be the first one to 5 wins? That we're probably going to find out next week. If not next week, certainly at some point this season. But let me just really quickly try to calculate the standings right now, because Tiamat Marduk got a big fat 0 from this race after crashing out earlier. And then we have, let me just quickly find this here. Oh, I have to move it over like this. That's not going to work well. Sorry for what you just saw on the data channel. That did not look great.
I'm not going to even ask. I'm not even going to ask. I don't want to know about your internet history or anything like that.
No. It's just so I have a windowed projector of what is shown on stream on my other monitor. Basically, it was Inception when I moved it over to the other monitor by accident. So it looked a bit weird, but nothing crazy. But yeah, so we have Tiamat Marduk on 116. We have Meraki on 113. We have Alex Gillon on 114. So Gillon overtakes Meraki by 1 point and is now 2 points behind Tiamat Marduk. So the top 3 in the standings are only separated by 3 points. Then we've got Bushy Ants at 99, still pretty close, within 17 points of the championship lead. And then we have, let me see, GB68 at 90 and Safso at 82. With Van Heffen moving up a little bit, going to 69. Very nice for him. And I had to. And that is pretty much the way it goes. So the top 7 in the championship.
Sorry, just to talk over you a second, Badger, just to go through the list here before we lose the 15 seconds. So, yes. Alex Gillon, Bushy Ants, Meraki, Van Heffen, GB68, Safso, Liam, El Taco Man, Rasenchai, Hayden Gullis, Dirk Chocolate, Curbs, Dat Guy Vince, Devon Butler, Enfratic, Mr. Dale, Rift Blondie, Tiamat Marduk, Just One Alley, and Just Hun TTV. So, there we go. Then, back to you, Badger Man, now that that's all over and done with.
Yeah, so what I was trying to say, the top 7 in the championship were all finishing in the top 6 in the race, except for Tiamat Marduk, who DNF'd earlier after just 11 laps in the race. So really, the top drivers in the championship showed today again why they are the top drivers in the championship. Again, with the exception of Tiamat Marduk, who showed what he can do on a bad day.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, that, I mean, it happens to all of us, doesn't it? He's only human, no matter what he or his followers may think. I love you, Ben. Please don't murder me for such a comment. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to, once again, and it's been a while since we checked in with them, it's down to Gareth for the clip book, because we've got a few post-race things we're going to have a look at before we then invite our drivers in for an interview. So, Gareth, over to you.
What a race it was, and fantastic commentary from the both of you. A few things to unpick, and there's a lot to unpick from today, to be honest. First, let's go over Curbs. We saw him spin out shortly after that safety car restart, and at first I thought maybe was that a little bit of contact. He goes for a move maybe on Hayden Gullis, but he's very close to that wall, and if we head over to Safso's view, you can actually see he just clunks the wall. He just clunks the wall, and completely a mistake on him. Wasn't lighting up the tyres, just a problem with judging the distance between the wall. It was a bit of a clumsy overtake opportunity, a bit too late on the brakes for me, in my opinion there. Another little thing I want to talk about is El Taco Man overtaking the car in front around the outside of turn 2, sorry, and that was a bit of a scary moment down the straight once again. I think a little bit of lag at play there, but it would be around the outside of that guy Vince, who had a bit of an up and down story today and is involved into that I'm going to go through in a second. But around the outside, El Taco Man went braved out, and superb from him there. We also have this spinning moment from Infratic, and we have his DNF coming up shortly. But I thought maybe a little bit of a spin, but actually I think that guy Vince actually hit into the back of him, and that guy Vince, I didn't clip his side, but he was saying in his stream that he held his line, so he didn't feel like he was at fault for that instant, but certainly contact from the back for Emphatic, so you can't really blame Emphatic for that, and you probably can't blame Emphatic for this moment either. He does go into here, but then he goes into AI, and his AI bins it into the wall. So he was very angry with that one, and we can get his. He didn't quite realise hit start. I think he was going to go for reset to track. So that is the perils of reset to track. Is you're trusting the AI to do something, even if it's just for a millisecond. But that's it from me. It was a fantastic race, wasn't it? Absolutely fantastic race, and really enjoyable to bring you all the content. Thank you very much to Dan James in chat. He's given me loads of clips, and Melanie as well from Emphatic's channel. Really appreciate that.
Fantastic, good stuff. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, rather, everybody who has been doing that. So let's get some interviews done. First of all, let's bring in Van Heffen, shall we? So I'll just, I don't have permissions to move them, so someone else is going to have to.
That's going to be me then. 1 second, Van Heffen first.
Yes, please. Right then, young man. So you're at Jan Van Heffen. talk us through your race here today. Oh, and he's gone.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
He did not want to be part of the stream.
He did not. He did not. He absolutely did not.
He needed to finish off a conversation, obviously.
Yeah.
Apparently so. I'll tell you what
we
then.
take
Let's. Well, we'll take whoever. Oh, he's back.
I was dragged out.
You were dragged out by who?
Oh,
Well, we will find them and we will do harm to them. But there we go. We've got you back then. So talk us through that race for you.
Ugh, that was roller coaster of emotions. If you very much include the end there, I must say that Q1 was a massive celebration with Bushy and Jake out because I thought either Bushy or Jake was gonna get pole. To my surprise, Alex was rapid. I did not see that coming. So Q1, Q2, Q3 went decent. P2 super happy with that. Race, I think I was super happy with how it went throughout the race. Strategy was pretty decent. The pace was definitely good. The consistency was good. So happy with that. Shame was that in the last laps on those mediums, my wheel turned to Xbox mode. Basically meaning I had to remove the screw that's under my wheel with like a key. Take it off the.
I wasn't assuming you did it with a piece of cheese. I mean, it's fair to assume. But yes, please go on.
I am no cheese, as Dutch as I am. Had to remove it off the wheelbase and put it back, and in the meanwhile, GB and Jake overtook me, and I basically had like 2 or 1 lap to drive left. I was like, oh my god, like the win was on the table today. I wasn't gonna win it, but it was on the table today, which makes it just that extra little bit more sad, basically. Yeah. Anyways, I gotta be thankful for. I think I got P4 because with 9,000s I managed to get GB's penalty. That last lap I completely sent it. That was the wall or GB. Like I got so close to the walls on Baku. That made me realize how safe I was driving during the race instead of absolutely like sending it and stuff. But yeah, definitely an exhausting race as well. It's super warm here right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. One last question from me before either Badger asks anything or if we let you go. Of course, you mentioned there those medium tyres towards the end. And what was the thinking there to go onto mediums instead of onto the softs?
So it wasn't even the plan that the safety car was there. I drove into the pits, and as I selected mediums, drive into the pits, and basically as I go to the grid box, the safety car just pulls in front of me and goes out of the pit lane. I'm like, what? And then I couldn't even think, like, what tires am I going to take for this? However, I was hoping, because it's Baku, that the softs were going to be absolute crap after a while. Wasn't able to really prove it because I had a wheel disconnect, but I think the softs were fine at the end. You saw Ben fling it into the wall earlier with those softs. I was thinking like they're probably overheating, or after a couple laps they're horrible. And I for a fact know from quali that there was so much percentage of wear on the softs during the quali sessions. I was like, okay, these softs may be absolute horrible. Try those mediums, confirm the long run until the line basically. And I think Jake had that idea as well.
Excellent, good stuff. Okay, then, Badger, any questions from you at all for Mr. Van Heffen?
No, not really.
Well, there we go then. That settles that then. So, thanks very much for joining us then, and hopefully next time the win is just that little bit closer for you, and
Nice.
and you'll be able to do a little bit better. But for now, then, that's Mr. Van Heffen, everybody. So next,
Thank you very
then.
much.
You're very welcome indeed. Next then, let's bring in Meraki, of course, for a third place that I'm sure he will be very, very happy about. Let's get him in as somebody who has the permissions to move them across.
That's so.
And here he is.
Hello.
Yeah, there we go then. Hello, Meraki. So, third place then, after a penalty for GB. And talk us through that. And did you think that a podium was on the cards there at the beginning of the race?
Not really, no. It just tends to happen that if I have a really bad qualifying, well, I didn't really have a bad qualifying. It was just, I'm sure you guys caught it on stream, right? Where curbs came in, and then I got held in my garage for another like 45 seconds, and that's what put me over the timer, so I couldn't get a lap in, which is why I never got a lap in on the slicks. But then, yeah, started P17. I got hit from behind by Hun going into the just the right hander before the castle section, spun around. luckily no real wing damage, and then from there it's just, I guess, just driving, being on the right tires at the right time, I guess.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it certainly seemed that way. It seemed like you were a man possessed at certain parts of the race. Talk us through. I mean, you were, of course, one of the two drivers who went for the very, very long stint on the hards. A couple of tires, which would have been able to get to the end if not for that, final safety car and everyone going to softs and mediums and things like that. Just talk us through how those hards were feeling, and what do you reckon the result would have been if that final safety car hadn't come out?
Oh, I don't know. I think I would have been able to go to the. I think I may have been able to get. I don't know. I think they were a pit stop ahead of me, actually, P1 and P2. So I don't think it would have been that much difference. I still think it would have been P3. But I made a point to myself that I was just not going to go onto the soft tires in this race at all. I just banned them out the equation. So that's kind of why I stayed out on that first safety car on the mediums and not come in. Because I wanted my tires to be in, I guess, the best condition at the end, rather than going onto softs and burning through them at like 20% every lap. But yeah, that was. I don't think it would have been that much different. It still would have been a P3, maybe P4.
Okay, very good. And anything you feel like you could have done differently? Anything that would have improved things with the the collision with Hun to one side?
No, I think the collision with Hun happened like early enough in the race that it didn't really make that much of a difference, because I only lost about, I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds, probably because of that, maybe 5. And I finished, I think 7 seconds behind Bushy in P2. So I think aside from that, setup was fine. So that was really, really good, because I noticed in the middle sector when I was behind Liam, I could charge my battery and just catch him like a lot. So I guess he was running like 0-0 wings, because he was so fast down the straights, but I was catching him by like half a second in the middle. But yeah, I think that's probably as much as I could have got, considering where I started, as well as Bushy as well, getting P2, and we know how much of a absolute demon Alex is. So yeah, I'm happy.
Absolutely. Yes, as I'm sure you should be. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks very much for joining us. Badger, any questions from you for Meraki?
No, once again, not really. Understandable why he didn't choose the softs.
Yeah.
Because they don't really last.
3
that
corners.
Long, do
3 corners, they're gone.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go anywhere near them.
It's not so much the wear, it's more so the temperatures, right?
Yeah. To be fair, I think my mediums never really went above like 92, 93. So I think my softs would have been fine if I did go on. So I had 2 brand new sets because of the old mishap. I had the mishap in Q1, didn't I? So
fair enough.
Yeah, so I had the set that I went out on, didn't get in, and then I had the other 2 sets it gave me. So
is that what it's now canonically known as, the mishap?
Yeah.
when we write the story of Creator Series for this season. Yeah. Well, there we go.
It was my fault. It was my fault, but I'm going to blame my teammate anyway. So
I mean, that's fair. That's a typical racing driver thing to do. Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, I tell you what then. Go tell off your teammate. Go have a good debrief, and we will see you next time, of course.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Very welcome indeed. Thanks for joining us. So next then, let's grab in second place, Bushy Ants. Bushy. How are we doing, sir, first of all?
Very tired.
I mean, I can imagine. Sure, yeah. Have you got caffeine handy? Anything like that?
I'm eating right now, so yeah.
Well, there you go then. Excellent. Well, I hope that we don't interrupt it too much. But in terms of that then, second place, not quite as good as the last 2 races, of course, but, it's off the back of 2 race wins. I mean, surely this puts you in a great position now for the championship.
Yeah. The start of the stream was a bit rocky, had quite a few issues, and then I tapped the wall and instantly lost my rear left. That was a bit frustrating. So yeah, just tried to do as best as I can. Then the start of the race, I got kicked out, and I thought that was pretty much it over, but luckily got back in. I just tried to push as much as I can for each lap, and now I'm just dead.
I mean, unsurprisingly so. I mean, out in Q1, of course, and then finishing on the podium. It was quite the drive. What do you think was the main key ingredient to that success today? Was it consistency? Was it staying out of danger? Anything else?
Yeah, I think it was just my consistency and ability to stay out of danger. I think there was a few incidences that happened around me, but not many. So I was pretty lucky in that regard.
Absolutely, yeah. And Badger, any questions from you for Bushy?
What was it like to just drive through the field like that? I mean, you started P20, and then I think after just 20 odd laps, just before you pitted, you were like the top 4. What was it like to just go through the field like that?
Well, I can't take all of the credit. I would like to thank my AI for gaining 4 positions on lap time.
Fair enough.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, I wasn't really thinking too much about getting through the field quickly. It just ended up happening. There was incidences that happened in front of me that I was able to take advantage of. I did actually spin under the first safety car and lost 3 positions. So yeah, that was kind of frustrating, but yeah, just managed to get back and into it afterwards.
Excellent. Very, very good. Well,
And hold on, one
oh
more
yes,
thing.
no, absolutely. You go on. You go on.
Bushy, you have also been voted as driver of the day.
Let's go, my first one. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, congrats.
Also, I'm not happy with Alex because he didn't let me get my last to first.
You're gonna have to talk that out after the interview.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some negotiation that can go on. Now, there is one thing that I do owe you, Bushy, because, of course, when you got your win in Abu Dhabi, that was my first broadcast, and I didn't realise that we did interviews. So, as a belated by 2 weeks, you've won the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. How do you feel?
I'm very happy. I managed to beat Tom Martinez, so that's probably where my life is going to peak now. I've carried Hayden this season, and I've beaten Tom Martinez. Life is good.
Excellent. Very good. Well, there we are then. I think that's a great note on which to end this particular interview. So thanks very much for joining us, Bushy, and we look forward to seeing you race next week.
Thank you very much. Later, guys.
Later on. Right. Okay, so I think our race winner, it's got to be, hasn't it? Let's see if we can get Mr. Alex Gillon in here, and here he is. He is muted. I hope he's not eating something or something like that. That would be awfully awkward. I'm giving him plenty of time to unmute and be ready. Alex, how was that race for you?
Hey guys, how's it going? Oh my god, what a race! I was absolutely buzzing. I was screaming and shouting as I crossed the line. That was mega. My first pole in Creator Series, so that was great. Obviously helped with the big Q1 knockouts, but yeah, a little bit eventful still though. I had my little half spin, which wasn't ideal, but we managed to recover from that nicely. And always a stress with the safety cars. You never know, is there going to be another one or not? Do I save the fuel now? Do I burn the fuel now? Do I box now? It's always a bit of a lottery, this series, but yeah, I really thought Bushy was going to have the pace of me at the end. We both had brand new softs, thankfully. A bit lucky there with saving a brand new set through quali for me, because otherwise I think Bushy would have got me. But yeah, I was amazed to have the pace, to be honest. Bushy's absolutely rapid, so to have the pace just to pull away like that, I was buzzing, absolutely buzzing. It was, yeah, I think it's probably my best race yet in Creator Series. It was unbelievable.
Absolutely. I think there's plenty of evidence to back that up. So just talking through the race then with you, I mean, there was that incident, of course, that you've pointed out there, the half spin at turn 1. What ultimately caused that? Was that just driver error? Was that getting onto a curb or something like that? Talk us through that.
Yeah, it was just driver error. I just locked the wheels a little bit. Went for a relatively aggressive setup, so I had good rotation. Which I was helped because I actually happened to film my career mode on this track on Thursday, so I had a good level of track knowledge. But I hadn't done any prep for this race. Literally did one quali lap and like two of the first race laps as practice, and then went straight into quali. So I feel like it was just a bit of a lack of practice on the 100% distance fuel, because normally I run 50% distance in my other career modes and stuff. So yeah, I think the car was just heavy. I had good rotation in the car, slammed on the brakes, just held them a little bit too hard, and I think the rear just started coming around on me, and rather than trying to catch it and potentially end up in the wall, I just elected just to jam on the brakes just to kind of arrest the slide and make sure that it wasn't worse than it was. It did cost me 5 positions or so, but it was nothing more than that at least, and I was able to carry on. So yeah, I think just lack of practice really is what that was, and it certainly made me wary for the rest of the race when I was hitting the brakes into turn 1.
I can imagine. And then you talked about the safety cars there. It's lovely. You've done part of my job for me, really. But in terms of safety cars, in terms of managing all of those, you mentioned things like saving the fuel or not and all these sorts of things. What was going through your head as far as tyre strategy was concerned, though? Because you seem to be a bit less keen, shall we say, to dive straight into the pits as some other drivers were.
Yeah, again, I should really do some more practice for these, because having the knowledge of how long the tyres would go would be so helpful, because it is very much sort of wing it. I mean, all I could do is judge the tyres that I was on. Ben was saying his tyres were lasting fine as well on the softs at the start. So, and I could see my hards were lasting for ages. So I was thinking, if I can get to about halfway through the race, I should be able to go to the end on mediums, I reckon. And I think I would have been okay to mediums at the end. Knew I had the softs in the bag for the last stint if I needed it. So Yeah, I mean, it's just judging it. I mean, like, what I am saved by is this game is quite linear between the tires. It's not like in real life where maybe the softs die super quick and the mediums last forever or the hards last forever. It's, if the hards are lasting quite well, the mediums will also last quite well, just not quite as well, generally speaking. So, yeah, it was just a judgment call, really. And you're right. It's so hard to judge which safety car to box under. There's going to be safety cars. There's always a given in the Creator Series, but it's about figuring out, when they're going to be, because we had, before that final safety car, we probably had, what was it, maybe 15, 20 laps of green flag running. So if I was still out there on the hards then, I'd have been in big trouble. So there's always a rubber luck with boxing at the right time in these races, all the safety cars. But it's just about, what I try and do is get to the point where I can go to the end, which is what I did for the mediums. And then, beyond that, it's all luck, really.
Well, there we go then. I tell you what, a little bit of luck can help sometimes, and everybody gets a bit of good and bad every now and then, don't they? So I tell you what, then took it in your stride, converted pole into a win, and not a bad bit of driving here today. Badgerman, any questions from you for Alex before we let him go?
Yes, but before I ask any questions, Alex, you just mentioned that you didn't know how long the tires were going to last and just winging it. I've said this to most of the drivers already in the cooldown room. I'm going to mention you in that cooldown room as well. There's a link. That is something that almost all the drivers have at this point. They've all seen it once or twice. And you can see basically for every circuit, the lifespan for every tire compound. So it's probably not a good idea to help you with how many wins you've had. But to ensure fair competition, that information is readily available for most of the drivers, so I feel like it would be unfair if it isn't for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but yeah, I mean, as you say, I don't change a winning formula, right? So I feel like whatever I'm doing right now, maybe just keep doing it. Just
Yeah,
don't
there you
mess
go.
with it, and then get too confident with the tires, maybe box too early or something. It seems to be working for now, so I'll be reluctant to
there you
change
go.
anything at all.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if it works. I do have two questions. One, you've now drawn level with Ben on wins in the Creator Series history. You both have 4. Who's going to be the first one to 5?
Ben got 4, is he? Fair play. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can make the next 2 weeks. So as always, my inability to attend all the races opens the door for Ben. But I very much enjoyed his driving today. That was thoroughly enjoyable. So if we can keep that up and keep me in the championship fight, that'll be good. But yeah, it's too dependent on attendance, unfortunately. Obviously, I'd love it to be me. Ben hasn't actually crossed the line in front of me on track. He did beat me in Australia because of penalties, but in this series, he's never crossed the line in front of me, I don't think, on track. So if I'm around, I'm gonna bet on myself.
Well, there you go. And then the second question is regarding the championship. Current standings after today's race are Ben on 116, you on 114, and Meraki on 113. So it's getting incredibly close. If you can't attend the next 2 races, what would you hope the point gap is going to look like once you return?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a bit of a gap. I think I haven't attended the last, 4 in a row or so. I think I've attended 5 of the 9 races. Obviously, I was helped by the big gap when I had a big lead. So now I'm not behind. I don't know. I'm not. If I do have to take the next 2 weeks off, I'm not hopeful. I don't think. But I'm hoping after that I can attend a lot of them. And it seems to be going well so far. But I think just consistency is absolutely key. That's what Ben seems to be struggling for right now. If I can, even if I don't win all the races that I attend, that'd be insane if I did. But if I could just maybe just get podiums in pretty much every race I attend, hopefully that'll put me somewhere near the championship. Again, still attendance pending, but yeah, it's just so up and down this series, isn't it? I mean, Ben's now had 2 DNFs this season, but also won a couple of races, I think, hasn't he? So it's so hard to call. I don't envy you guys trying to call it. I think it'll only be the final race that will actually know. Right, this is the championship situation. This is who's attending this week. This is the situation.
There you go. And then I do have a final question that just came in through chat. Certain Mr. Tiamat Marduk is saying, "Get him in the bin." So the question is, Alex, will you get in the bin?
Unfortunately, not Ben. No, he's got to put me in the bin, which he doesn't seem to be able to do. So come on, bring it on, Ben. Bring it on.
We'll have right of reply in just a moment. There's one last one before we let you go, Alex, and that's coming from Gareth, who has stayed nice and quiet throughout all the other interviews. So you must be very special, Gareth. Take it away with your question.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say I'm here commentating, and yet again you've won. This is my first one for a while. and you're back in the winnings room. Yeah, I'm just saying, maybe it's not luck. Maybe I'm a good luck charm. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's me who's really the key to your success.
I think you might be. Yeah, you might be good luck, chap. Although I think I did win one race you didn't attend.
Maybe in
Oh
Saudi.
no, was that Australia? Did you commentate Australia?
No, I didn't do Australia.
Oh, and I had penalties for that one. So yeah, you're right. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe you are a lucky charm.
That's it.
Amazing.
Very good, very good. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Alex. Thanks for the great race as well. It was fantastic to watch and commentate on, and very well done with it as well.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks for the commentary. Catch you next time.
No worries. See you then. So we do have one last person who's waiting in the interview room. They've been very, very patient indeed. Let's bring in Mr. Benjamin Daly. So here he is then. His microphone is muted, so again, I'm going to do my absolute level-headed best here to try and just fill some time until I see that muted sign going away. Ah, there he is.
All right,
Ben.
I fell asleep.
Well, I mean, you know,
it's Gillon waffle.
Well, I mean, this will happen occasionally. How's the bench?
I've picked up a few splinters. Not gonna lie, I do need to stand up before I lose all circulation, but it's all right. It's nice and comfy over here.
Now, I must say, I do feel as though we were robbed of a really good race today with you going out so early, because on those soft tyres, you really seemed, even throughout that safety car period, taking them a bit deeper than you know some may have thought, really. It was looking like you still had relatively good control right up until the moment of the crash. Just talk us through the crash itself, because we didn't get a chance to see it, only the aftermath.
Yeah, so it was just like any other lap, really. I think I was shaping up to overtake P2, and I was just carrying a good amount of speed. If anything, I felt like I gave myself more. I sacrificed the left-hander, and I got myself well over to the left, more so maybe than other laps. And so I thought I'd be better placed to get out of the right-hander. But no, the back end just died on me out of nowhere, and I couldn't save it. It was straight in the wall. And I think it's tire pressure related, because I was running like about halfway on the rears, which I think was a bit too high.
Yeah, but possibly.
For softs anyway. I would have been fine if it was on the mediums and the hards later. But yeah, I had so many tires available. I probably had the most flexible strategy out of anyone. I was just getting those softs out the way so I could look after my mediums and hards. But yeah, it is what it is. Got to bounce back well next week.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. Again, I mean, just talking about qualifying, I mean, that's ultimately why I would imagine you had such a flexible strategy going into the race. How did you end up going out in Q1? Was there an invalidated lap or something like that?
No, I set my banker on the Q1 tires in Q2, and I thought the lap was actually quite decent. So I thought, I'll chance it here. I'll see if I can get through to Q3 on these tires, and if I don't, then I've got all these tires I can utilize for the race. So, look, let's be honest. Qualifying position doesn't matter at all in this series. So
no, absolutely not.
I'll just go for it for content, and I only missed out on Q3 by 1,000th of a second.
Yeah, it was bitterly close, but as you say, you know, you gave us a good bit of racing there in the beginning at least, and then from the sidelines, you know, obviously watching on from there. I mean, how was the rest of the race from your perspective? Was there anything that you thought may have gone differently if something else would have happened, or anything where you maybe thought a driver's decision was a bit strange?
Yeah, probably Ruta not taking softs in the final stint. With my strategy, I was anticipating a clump of safety cars at the start, and I was going to save my hards to go to the end. So I felt like I would have been in a good position there. But Alex just positioned himself really well in that race. To have fresh tires, to have track position, just doing everything he needed to at that last safety car, and then he was just able to eke out the gap. And fair play to him, he drove well, and no one else really had an answer.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Badger, any questions from you for Mr. Daly?
Yeah, I think one of the similar questions that I had for Alex Gillon regarding the championship standings, you are still in the lead, but only 2 points ahead of Meraki and 2 points ahead of Alex Gillon, 3 points ahead of Meraki. So it's getting very, very up close and personal there. Are you worried that you're going to lose the championship lead next race?
No. I'm not that worried about that. I feel like I'm quite consistent. Let's forget about today. But if I have a normal race, I'm fairly confident of being on the podium and challenging for wins. So I just need to just take it a bit more easy, I suppose. But yeah, I
Taking
feel
it
like I should be
easy.
up there.
Dear, I never want to hear you say the phrase "taking it easy" ever again. I want to see full, flat-out racing every single lap from all the drivers in the creative series. Dear, oh dear. Any more from you, Badger?
I do see a certain Mr. Adam Sanderson in the chat saying "bin Daily" instead of Ben Daily, so I'll just mention that real quick. Oh, and I do have one more question actually. I saw in the chat earlier that you were after your early retirement that you were engineering for SAFSO. Is that correct?
Mate, I was engineering for anyone who had a sniff of beating Alex. Let's be honest. I was heavily engineering Router. That didn't go well.
Yeah.
I tried engineering.
SAFSO.
I was engineering Safso just before he spun. So I think my days of engineering, well, they started today, but I think they should end today too.
Yeah, not as easy as it looks, is it?
I'll leave it to the professionals.
There you go.
Very good,
Love the
very
haircut,
good.
by the way, too, Badger.
Thank you.
There you go. Fantastic. Well, there we go then. Thanks very much for joining us then, Ben, and hopefully greener pastures for you at the next race.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. See you next week.
Thank you very much. So, that's all our interviews done and dusted. That is everybody dealt with in the interview room. And so what we'll do now is, I guess we'll just do all of our wrap-up. Of course, here at the Creator Series, we've got all the creators you've seen here today. Please go check all of them out, give them all a follow, do all these various bits and pieces. Banjo, where can the good people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at BadgermanTV, here on Twitch. Every time when the Creator Series is on, you can find the Data channel over on my channel at Badgerman as well. And when the Creator Series is not on, you usually find me streaming F1 Manager and do a better job at engineering than Ben.
Fantastic. And then, of course, Gareth, if he's still here, of course. He's been quiet for a long time. He does have his microphone muted at the moment, so there we go. He's returned. He's come back.
Mic etiquette. That's what it is.
Well, there we go. It's certainly better than mine. But where can the good people find you as well, Gareth?
Oh, at Gareth Allen TV on Twitter. That's it.
Fantastic. There we go. And then for myself, you can find me over here on Twitch, on twitch.tv/Daniel Gilligan, and on Instagram /DA Gilligan. But from us, that is it. If you are wanting to check out some more racing this weekend, of course, I'm sure some of the creators are going to be doing watch-alongs for the race tomorrow, so do check them out for that as well. And from the rest of us, I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, whatever it is that you're doing. And from me and the rest of the team, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.